Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Fell in Love with Female Katsuki. Now before starting, please give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Izuku groaned for the 7th time as he saw the school getting closer. Aldera Junior High, the place he would be enrolled at for the next few years. Izu, it won't be bad, I promise. Inko looked at her son as she parked the car. They will just do the same as everyone else, Izuku's ever-tired voice said. Once they find out my quirk, they will just avoid me without question. I am sure this time it will be different, Inko said. You know that my old friend Mitsuki's daughter goes here. Why did we even leave Tokyo? It was better there, Izuku asked. You know that your father just got a teaching job at UA. The commute is better this way. But I wouldn't have to repeat this whole thing again, the boy said. He didn't like how everyone heard the most watered-down version of his quirk and would distance themselves from him, which was idiotic. His quirk wasn't nearly as bad as everyone made it out to be, but then again the other kids his age were idiots. Try to see if Mitsuki's daughter wants to be friends. Inko tried one more time to encourage her son. I will try, Izuku sighed. Will Dad be home today? He better be, Inko said. Lord knows he doesn't do much outside the house. Inko ruffled her son's messy green hair that fell all over his head. I promise it will be different this time. Izuku gave a weak smile. See you after school, Mom. Love you, sweetie. The caring mother watched her son head into the school. Katsumi glared at everyone as she made her way to her homeroom, just waiting for them to try to mess with her so she could set off her explosive quirk. Of course, no same kid in Musutafu would mess with her. She was Katsumi Bakugo, the girl with the explosive and powerful quirk and equally explosive temper. Everyone basically worshipped the ground she walked on. She had a powerful quirk, was intelligent, had looks that most girls were insanely jealous of, and had a clear-set path to the top. Feeling something off about her shoe, she looked down to see a piece of gum had stuck itself to her shoe. Cursing under her breath, she wanted to fight the dumbass who spit their gum out in the hallway. Before she could look back up to where she walking, she bumped into someone and fell backwards onto her rear. Watch it, dumbass, Katsumi snapped as she started to pick herself up. People turned to look, wondering which poor soul pissed off Katsumi this time. I know you aren't referring to me when you were the one looking at the ground, a tired voice said. That would mean you were calling yourself a dumbass. Katsumi felt rage as she looked at the person who just made the worst mistake of their life. He was a boy who looked to be the same age as her. His eyes were a sparkling green that looked like they had so much life, but they also looked shot and tired, as if this boy doesn't sleep for more than minutes at a time. His green hair was shoulder length and hung down around his head in a mess like it desperately needs to be combed. He had a neutral expression bordering on tired that made it seem like he wouldn't care about this at all if he even had the energy to. The did you just say to me? Katsumi snapped. I said that you definitely weren't talking about me being a dumbass not watching their step when you were the one who was staring at their shoes. The boy's voice even seemed tired. Katsumi had never seen him before, so he must be a transfer student or new to Aldera and the area if he was saying something like this to her. You must be new here, Katsumi started. So let me tell you how it works. You should apologize and beg for mercy before I blow your dumb face off. Izuku didn't respond in any way to the girl in front of him immediately. If he had to be honest, the girl was kind of attractive. Her ashy blonde hair was somewhat spiky and pulled into a short ponytail. She had crimson eyes that, if they didn't have that hateful look, he would say were the prettiest eyes he has seen in his 12 years alive. Going off of her threat to blow his face off, he assumed she had a quirk that probably was as violent as her temper was. So he activating his quirk, his hair starting to float upwards, and his eyes giving off a lime green glow. I want to apologize for something I didn't cause or do. Fine then, have it your way. The girl tried to throw an open palm strike at his face, Izuku sidestepping it and spinning her arm behind her as he got on that side of her. Everyone looked surprised as he was somehow quicker than the girl, and putting her into an arm lock. Shouldn't attack someone like that. That is not good behavior. Izuku almost yawned, his quirk making him feel a little tired. Katsumi had wide eyes. Did this loser just completely dodge an explosion? Speaking of which, why didn't her palm erupt with the explosions of her quirk? Did he do something to her quirk? It would make sense seeing as how his eyes had started glowing and his hair was floating. When I let go, don't try to attack me again, Izuku said, not helping but noticing that she smelled like caramel. Letting go of her, he still had his quirk activated on her solely. He turned and walked away to his class. Katsumi glared at his back. As he rounded a corner, she felt her palms start to explode with her quirk, meaning it was in fact that kid that did something to her quirk. Did he have a quirk that cancelled out other quirks? Did Bakugo just get her ass handed to her? An upperclassman asked out loud. Katsumi decided to take out her frustrations on that dumbass. In his new homeroom, Izuku put his head down on his desk, feeling drained because of his quirk. A small nap wouldn't kill anyone. So do you think we will be lucky this time? Izuku heard a girl ask. No, seeing as how it seems like no matter what Bakugo always is in some of mood she will snap at us first. A second female voice said, I hope not. She is getting too scary. The first one shivered. Izuku decided that he didn't care who this Bakugo was and let his mind wander as he slipped into a nice nap, which was quickly ended when he heard the loud crash of a book hitting part of his desk not occupied by his arms or head. Izuku opened his eyes to look up and saw the rage-filled crimson eyes of the girl from the hallway. Hello, head, the girl said with spite. What did you do to my quirk? Izuku decided to not engage her in conversation and closed his eyes and went back to trying to take a nap. She would have to go to her class in a second anyways. Hey, the girl snapped. I was talking to you, loser. The students watching heard a low groan from the boy, who still had his head down. I wasn't talking to you, so go away. Izuku's muffled voice came out. The class was wondering if this kid was an idiot messing with Katsumi like that or just had big ass. Katsumi's eye twitched and small explosions popped in her palms. Listen here, asshole. Katsumi tried to hit Izuku, but he moved away again and repeated the process of pinning her arms behind her, his eyes glowing and hair floating. No, you listen, Izuku said quietly. I don't care about whatever ego you have here. Go bother someone else. Izuku pushed her away slightly. Katsumi had never felt as pissed off as she did right there. It didn't help that her explosions were again gone. The students were all pulling out their phones, some even coming in from the hallway at the sounds of a possible fight. The allure of someone actively picking a fight with Katsumi of all people being a huge aspect of the attention the scene got. That's enough rough housing, a teacher said as he walked into the room. Everyone to their seats. Izuku sat back down, with the girl taking the seat in front of him, but not before giving him a dirty look. Izuku ignored it and questioned the integrity of the teacher if he called that rough housing. Today we have two things. First, I want to announce we will be learning more about a new type of quirks and also introducing a new student, who you all have already met apparently. Izuku would have preferred if they just ignored his new presence and carried on. And he knew this quirk lesson probably had to do with him. The school practically drooled at the idea of Izuku enrolling there because of his unique quirk. He had no doubt it was because the school just wanted name recognition when he inevitably goes to a big high school, like UA, which he wants to attend like his father before him. Can you introduce yourself to the class? The teacher asked Izuku, all heads turning to him. Stifling a groan, Izuku spoke. I am Izuku Aizawa. Izuku ended it there. Why bother saying your likes or dislikes when you don't want to actually engage in anything with those people? Can you try again? The teacher seemed annoyed. Tell us about yourself. Izuku exhaled in annoyance. He really wanted to just sleep at that moment, figuring if he just says one or two things they will be satisfied and leave him alone. I like caramel and dislike people wanting to know my private stuff. Izuku felt like that was more than enough for them. What is your quirk? A random kid asked. Izuku knew once he said it people would overreact like idiots. However, before he could respond, the teacher spoke. He actually has the unique type of quirk that we will be learning about today. Izuku felt like that was a better answer than him grumbling his response of the half of his quirk everyone dislikes. What type of quirk? The type still has no official name, but he actually has both of his parents' quirks. Izuku didn't like how this guy was giving out his information. So big deal, I also have both of my parents' quirks, Katsumi said, thinking that Izuku was nothing special. You are correct, Bakugo, the teacher said. You actually have a fusion of your parents' quirks that created your explosions. Aizawa here, however, has both quirks side by side. What a random kid asked KM confusion. He has two quirks, no fair. Another kid whined. What are they? Katsumi narrowed her eyes. It didn't matter how many quirks he had, he was still a loser compared to her. Izuku, as much as he didn't want to be part of this, didn't like others talking for him, so he spoke. I inherited telekinetic energy from my mother and the ability to momentarily erase a quirk from being used. Izuku used emphasis on the momentarily. Katsumi now understood what happened earlier with her quirk. The dumbass turned it off to protect himself. His glowing eyes and hair starting to float must be a tell of the erasing being on. Wait, you can erase my quirk? A girl seemed offended by the idea. As long as I can hold my power, yes, Izuku answered her, expecting more people to start reacting the same way. TSSH doesn't matter, Katsumi said. Even with my quirk off I can still beat your ass. Izuku wanted to point out how she never got a hit on him but took that as his chance for the subject to change, which it did as the teacher began to talk more about quirks. For once Izuku wasn't immediately hated for his quirk. School was over and Izuku was walking home, having seen his mom send a text saying she would be late from work. The sun bothering Izuku's eyes, so he was squinting. Hey, Izuku wanted to groan as he heard the voice of Katsumi. Not wanting to make it worse, he stopped moving. Aizawa, what? Fight me, Katsumi said as she stood in front of him, just a couple of centimeters taller than him. Why would I do that? Izuku asked. So I can beat your ass into its proper place. Katsumi answered him. No. Katsumi looked offended and confused. Was this girl not used to hearing the word no? Why not? Katsumi asked. Because I think it would be pointless to fight. The tired boy started walking again. "Fight me," Katsumi demanded. "No, fight me. No, fight me. No, quit asking." Izuku wanted to smack his head against the pavement to end this. "I'm not asking, I am demanding." Katsumi pushed him. Izuku didn't react like she wanted. Instead of fighting back, he continued walking. "Come on, what are you, a? So I would be a just because I don't want to be in a fight I see as pointless." Izuku still kept walking, 2/3 of the way home. "You are just afraid of losing." Katsumi jumped in front of him, blocking his path. Izuku didn't even blink. "I doubt even you believe that." Katsumi narrowed her eyes. "Prove it." "This is pointless." Izuku tried to move around her, only for her to step back into his path. "Just think of it as a stupid test for your dumb quirk then," Katsumi stated. "I don't need to or feel like testing my abilities against yours." "Well, it's a surprise test." Katsumi tried to attack Izuku. Izuku jumped back away from her, dodging the strikes that were riddled with explosives. "This counts as assault," Izuku said as he smacked one of her arms away. "Fight back." Katsumi got irritated with his dodging, his only strikes being to block hers. Izuku scowled before using his telekinetic power to hold her in the air, his eyes and hands starting to glow lime green. Katsumi fidgeting to get out of his hold. "Stop," Izuku said in a flat tone. Katsumi surprisingly stopped, however not without continuing a glare at Izuku, noticing the slow drip of a drop from his nose, making her believe it is mentally straining for him to hold objects. "I'm going to put you down, but you seriously need to stop," Izuku said as he lowered her back to the ground, letting her stand on her feet. "I don't care about this ego problem you have, so don't try to involve me in it." Katsumi still glared at him but didn't do anything to attack him once she was released. Izuku walked past her silently, noticing but not reacting when she started walking beside him. After a couple of minutes of silence, Katsumi turned away from him and into an apartment building, one that was actually just around the corner from Izuku's. Izuku didn't show any sort of response to the separating, continuing down the sidewalk. Katsumi didn't make a sound as she entered her home, which made her mother look at her in confusion as she watched her daughter walk silently to her room. "Hey sweetie, how was school?" Mitsuki said, gaining no response. Honey. Yay." Masaru Bakugo walked into the room from the kitchen. "Did Katsumi come home all right?" "She was actually quiet for once," Mitsuki said. Masaru raised an eyebrow, and they both went to check on their daughter. Masaru knocked on his daughter's door. "Katsumi, are you okay?" They got no response. Mitsuki opened her daughter's door, and they found her face down on her bed, like just walked in and dropped there. "Katsumi, what's wrong?" "HMBMMHMHMFMMM." Katsumi mumbled through her sheets. What? Mitsuki sat on the edge of the bed while Masaru pulled over the chair from Katsumi's desk. "Honey, we can't hear you through the bed." Katsumi lifted her head slightly off of the bed. "He beat me in a fight." "What boy put their hands on my daughter?" Mitsuki shouted. "I will twist his little." Masaru put a hand on Mitsuki's shoulder to calm her down. "Sweetie, who tried to fight you?" "His name is Izuku Aizawa," Katsumi answered. Mitsuki looked surprised. Aizawa, her daughter, nodded. "Now I have to yell at Inko about her son. I started the fight," Katsumi stated, wondering who Inko was and how her mom apparently knew the family. "Why did you start the fight, honey?" Masaru was fighting the urge to pinch the bridge of his nose. "He didn't understand who I was," Katsumi said. Mitsuki looked at Masaru like she completely understood the situation, which was true because she had a similar situation when she first met her husband. "So you thought that fighting him would show him how strong and great you were?" Katsumi nodded into her sheets. "But he ended it without even touching me." Oh, Mitsuki was surprised. "How did he do that?" "He made me float," Katsumi said. "Oh, so should I call his mom and have them come over and sort this out?" Katsumi looked up at her mother in confusion. "What?" "Well, I know the Aizawas because I am friends with Izuku's mom. Never have met the boy, however," Mitsuki said. "I can call her and have you two apologize for any misunderstanding." Katsumi put her face back in her sheets. "I am not apologizing for anything. That was to know." Mitsuki grinned, getting up to go get her phone. "Masaru, honey, we are having guests for dinner." "I don't want him here," Katsumi shouted after her mom. "I was inviting my friends already," Mitsuki shouted back. Masaru followed her. "What is your plan exactly, honey?" Mitsuki's grin returned bigger. "Honey, don't act like you didn't notice the parallels to us. My loudness and overall thinking I am great. You being the first person I had to deal with that wasn't bowing to me. Please, I bet those two will end up together just like us." Izuku smiled for the first time in hours as he entered his apartment, his cat Marlo greeting him with some purrs. Izuku picked up Marlo and walked towards his room. Laying down on his bed, he sighed in content as the bed felt nice and Marlo's warmth making it better. Izuku heard the front door open and assumed it was either his father or mother, not checking because he knew they would be in there in a second to check on him. "Hey son." Shoda Aizawa poked his head into Izuku's room. "How was the first day?" Without opening his eyes, Izuku replied. "A crazy girl tried to fight me because I didn't care." Shoda let out a snort, remembering how frustrated Inko used to get with him back at school when they first met, and his lack of motivation drove her mad. Women are crazy, Izuku. I know that now. Izuku started rubbing Marlowe's neck. How was teaching? I might drop out some of the students. Shoda replied. They aren't taking it serious enough. At least some are taking it serious. Izuku said. Some do have great potential. Shoda nodded. Your mom will be home soon. She said she had a surprise. I'm going to have to stay awake, aren't I? Izuku asked. Most likely. Shoda nodded. Izuku groaned. Using my quirk today made me tired. Which half? Shoda asked his son, curious about the unique quirk. Both. My nose bled earlier. Did you clean it? Shoda didn't know why he bothered asking his son that when he could see the red liquid. Later, Izuku mumbled. That's fair. Shoda left Izuku alone to lay down as well. Izuku smiled in content again because of how cold and quiet his room was. Everything felt nice. Soon his mother came home. He heard the sounds of her talking through his open door, but it sounded too far away to be for him, so he ignored it. A minute later, his mom, he assumed, was tapping his foot. Izu, sweetie, get up. Izuku complained. Izu, get up. We are having dinner at my friend Mitsuki's place. Okay, just 1 minute. Izuku said. We have an hour. Try to dress nice. The Bakugos are good people. Inko left her son's room. Wait, Bakugos? Izuku sat up, feeling dread at thinking it was that angry girl. Izuku and his father shared many things. Their hairstyle of being unkempt, messy hair for starters. Their seemingly always being tired and looking like they just rolled out of bed being another big one. Both father and son seem unenthusiastic about most things if they don't see the point in them. And most importantly, a slight fear of Inko Aizawa, who always looked happy and the opposite of them in terms of energy. Izuku had exchanged his school attire for a pair of baggy black cargo pants and a loose dark green long-sleeved shirt. Shoda had a similar outfit but in all black. Inko has a black skirt and a green blouse. I thought I asked you two to dress nicely, Inko said to her husband and son. This is my nicely, Shoda replied. I got my hair out of my face. Izuku pointed to his messily tied back hair. Inko had an exhausted look. She didn't know why she expected more from the two when this should be expected. She had tried to get Izuku to be not as much like his father, but that ship had sailed a while ago. Try to at least not groan at social interactions, you two, Inko said, with a response of 2 groans. You better be getting them out right now and not complaining about it. Izuku wanted to groan again. He knew he would inevitably groan, and it would be because of that girl Katsumi, no doubt. Hold on, Katsumi, damn it, Mitsuki cursed as she tried to put a flower in her daughter's hair that would match the dress she made her daughter wear. Get that damn thing away from me, Katsumi swatted the flower away. I don't want it. It will match your dress, Mitsuki said. I don't want this either, Katsumi snapped. I am not going to have my daughter look like a little demon while guests are here. Mitsuki was getting frustrated with her daughter. But yet you walk around looking like an old hag, Katsumi asked. A tick mark formed on Mitsuki's forehead. What did you call me, you little twit? An old hag, you old hag. Little twit, old hag, little twit, old hag, little twit, old hag. Masaru continued to sip his drink like this was a normal situation, which it was for this household. Izuku and Shoda both felt dread as they heard the sounds of 2 people shouting at each other, and Inko chuckled at the memories of her friend Mitsuki being like that. Inko knocked on the door and the shouting stopped. A man opened the door. Hello, you must be the Aizawas. I'm Masaru. I'm Inko Aizawa. Inko flashed a big smile. Shoda, Aizawa shook Masaru's hand. This one is Izuku. Izuku made a weak smile, feeling really tired. Masaru nodded as he studied the boy that actually got a weird reaction out of his daughter earlier, noticing how he had many similarities to his father, including his tired eyes, even if the boy's eyes seemed more alive as well as tired. Come on in. Masaru guided the Aizawas to the living room, where Katsumi was stewing with a flower in her hair and Mitsuki was looking triumphant. Katsumi looked at the boy who had shrugged her off more than once that day, slightly irritated that even with her outfit that she wouldn't dare admit out loud that she liked and looked as good as hell, and he seemed to not notice her again. Instead, sitting next to his father that he looked like a smaller version of and looked like he was trying to sleep or daydream. Mitsuki saw the look her daughter made and smirked, knowing exactly what was going through her daughter's head. Hi Inko, how have you been lately, girl? I see you are still looking as fine as ever. Inko smiled. I have been great. Dealing with these two apparently is great exercise. Inko patted her husband's knee. This one has a more than enough for that. Mitsuki patted Katsumi's head, who looked like the action irritated her to her core but didn't react to it, especially after hearing how upon meeting Izuku here got in a fight with him. Inko snapped to Izuku. You got in a fight on your first day. Izuku fought his groan and shook his head. It was barely a fight. Shoda nodded. He didn't throw any punches. Inko looked at her husband with a little annoyance. You knew. Shoda realized his mistake. From what I heard, it wasn't that bad. It was great, Mitsuki said. She finally had someone kick her off of her high horse. Katsumi gave her mother a dirty look. Izuku felt like he should have faked getting sick and stayed home. All I did was hold her in the air with my telekinetic energy until she calmed down. Mitsuki grinned and looked at her daughter. You can get calm. Katsumi wanted to start shouting but knew it would make things worse. Why did you two fight? Inko had asked her son to be friends with her old friend's daughter, not end up in a fight with her. I wanted to see his quirk in action. Katsumi lied. Izuku nodded to agree with the lie. Mitsuki knew it was bullshit and Inko doubted it as well. Dinner is done, Masaru announced. After a dinner filled with Inko and Mitsuki laughing over fine memories of their time together at UA, and a few jokes from Mitsuki about Shoda who was in their classes with them, the four adults were enjoying tea. Izuku had returned to the couch in the living room and tried to silently doze off, and Katsumi sat across from him messing with the flowers she took from her hair. Katsumi gave Izuku a dirty look. I'm not apologizing. I'm not surprised. Izuku didn't open his eyes. What is that supposed to mean? Katsumi growled, not liking Izuku's tone. You seem too high and mighty in your own mind, so you think you can do nothing wrong, Izuku explained. Katsumi glared at the boy. What makes you think that your homeless-looking self can just think what other people are and act like an ass? Izuku looked at her. I can guess from today that because of your quirk everyone immediately started praising you just because of how strong your quirk is. It went to your head, and you became arrogant and believed that you are God's gift to the world. And apparently I am the first person here who actually doesn't bow down to you, so you are throwing a temper tantrum about it. Should we actually stop them? Masaru said as the four adults listened. Mitsuki smacked her husband's arm. Hell no, this might do Katsumi some good. Katsumi glared harder at Izuku. How is that any different from you acting all tough because you have a quirk that can erase other quirks just by looking at someone? The difference is I understand my quirk is a tool and not some holy thing to be worshipped like you believe. My erasing cancels out my telekinetic powers as well as everyone else's quirks, so all I am doing is leveling the playing field. So then fight me without your quirk, Katsumi said. You act all tough because of your quirk also. So let's fight without powers so you can put your damn money where your mouth is. We should really stop this now, Inko said before her husband put his arm on her shoulder. This could be a good lesson for them both. Izuku hasn't had an actual challenge, so he has also let things go to his head, but he doesn't acknowledge that. From what I can tell, little Bakugo will be more than enough to knock some sense into him and vice versa, Shoda said. Izuku stood up. Fine then. Katsumi was surprised that he agreed this time around so easily. Jumping up, she had a sadistic grin. Oh, I can't wait to beat your ass. Katsumi ran into the dining room where the adults were all waiting for the kids to show up. Mom, can me and Aizawa go outside? Don't do anything too stupid. Mitsuki waved off her daughter. Katsumi, grinning, rushed back through the apartment to grab Izuku and drag him outside. Mitsuki and the other adults went to the balcony to watch the small field behind their apartment. Shouldn't one of us go down there to stop them if they go too far? Inko knew her son wasn't reckless, but she still was a worrying mother. Sumi might be the biggest hothead, but she wouldn't let that happen. I am betting on my daughter. Sorry, Inko, but physically your son doesn't seem to have much muscle or energy. Appearance can always be misleading. Shoda yawned. All right, dumbass. Here are the rules, Katsumi said as she stood a few meters away from Izuku in the small field. No private parts, so I won't hear you cry as much as I want to. Don't mess with my hair. First person to get the other to give up or put them in a position of no escape without our quirks being used at all wins. Quirks automatically disqualify you. Is that all? Izuku asked as he watched her stretch, not bothering to himself, instead standing there with his hands loosely in his pockets. Yes. Are you ready? Do I not look ready? Izuku asked. No, you look like a... Katsumi taunted. Izuku decided to test trying to mess with her. You know, if you actually calmed down and didn't swear as much, I would consider you pretty. Katsumi's face turned red. Start, she blurted, so she can kick his ass. Katsumi went to punch his side, and Izuku finally removed his hands from his pockets, catching her fist and spinning her around him, and he hit her side. Katsumi ripped her hand out of his grip, using the other hand to grab his arm and pull him towards her, slamming her head into his. Going past her daze, she threw a punch and heard a crack as she hit his nose. Izuku, not expecting to even draw, had to throw out his previous plan and improvise. Dropping low, he swept Katsumi's legs, but instead of letting her fall, he quickly grabbed her arms and yanked her back up to do exactly what she did to him, slamming his head into hers, cracking her nose like she had done to him. Katsumi cursed. Gripping his arms, she elbowed his side and tried to twist his arm behind him. But Izuku rolled with it and actually flipped to twist and pin her arms to her chest with his, standing behind her now. That was unexpected, Izuku commented. I guess this is too. Katsumi swung her head back and felt it slam into his nose, making the broken thing worse. Izuku didn't let his grip on her release and used his one free arm to smack her over the head. Growling, Katsumi went limp for a second, using the surprise from Izuku to slip out of his grip. Spinning around, she clocked Izuku and pushed him to the ground, pinning him down. You lose, Katsumi grinned. Izuku didn't respond, instead raising his one leg not covered and kneed Katsumi in her rear, making her lose balance just enough for Izuku to find the strength to get up and flip their positions, making sure to have more coverage than she did to not allow escape. I win, Izuku said. Katsumi didn't say anything, too embarrassed about the fact that hitting his knee against her ass being the turnover he needed. Izuku stood up, touching his broken nose, before he offered a hand to Katsumi, who ignored it to get up on her own. Still a loser, Katsumi muttered. Izuku didn't say anything in response, opting to instead take notice of their parents that were watching. Didn't know your son was athletic, Mitsuki said. Didn't know your daughter isn't above drawing in a fight, Inko replied. She says it isn't a good fight until there is. Izuku looked to the explosive girl. Are you alright? Off, I don't want to hear you gloat. Katsumi wasn't paying attention to what he said. I don't gloat, it wastes time, Izuku replied. Izuku picked up the flower that fell from Katsumi's hair. You dropped this. Katsumi glared at the flower in his hand, snatching it from him. You got on it, moron. Sorry, you broke my nose. Izuku began to walk back inside. You broke mine, so don't. Katsumi followed. Once inside, both kids were grabbed by their specific overbearing worried parent, Izuku's being Inko and Katsumi's being Masaru. Honey, your nose is broken. Inko used a napkin to wipe the Izuku looking annoyed. I am aware. Izuku deadpanned. Does it hurt bad? Masaru was cleaning the from Katsumi's face. Not as much as his. Katsumi answered. Got him good, sweetie. Mitsuki gave a thumbs up to her daughter. Izuku tried to move his mother's hand away. I'm fine. I can fix it later. Inko, as much as she was a caring mother, whacked her son over the head. I am not letting you test your telekinesis to fix your nose. Telekinetic energy. Izuku corrected her. You might make it worse, Inko said. Or make it better. Shoda, tell him no. Inko looked at her husband. Shoda agreed that it would be great practice in seeing if Izuku's telekinetic energy can be used to patch himself up momentarily. However, he has been with Inko long enough to know that disagreeing with her on this was a death sentence. Izuku, let this get patched up by your mother. Izuku sighed. Fine. The Aizawas had just left. Closing the door after them, Mitsuki turned to find her daughter. So how was your first date? Mitsuki asked the girl who was trying to get rid of the dress. What? Katsumi shouted at her mother. That was not a date. Mitsuki smirked. You couldn't take your eyes off of him for half of the night. I was barely looking at him. You were trying to have a staring contest with his muscles. Once you're learned he had them. Mitsuki said. Why are you even looking at a 12-year-old, you old hag? Katsumi yelled. This isn't about me. This is about you. Don't get jealous. I'm not jealous. So you think you have a better chance than me? Yeah, because I am not an old hag. Why would he want a little twit? Why would he want an old hag? Little twit. Old hag. Little twit. Old hag. Little twit. Old hag. Never seen you get so flustered over a boy. Oh Lord, you have such a huge crush. Mitsuki laughed. Off. Izuku, hold still. Inko said. I don't like it. Izuku didn't like the feeling of the rubbing alcohol being applied to his nose. I don't understand how you barely want to move unless you have to actually stay still. I don't like the alcohol. It burns. I don't care if you don't like it. It is supposed to burn to get any bacteria out. I know. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Izuku, I hope you took the lesson from that Spar, Shoda said from the hallway. I know. Sorry, I let my head swell up. I understand how it can feel. When I started out using my quirk to erase other people's quirks, it made me feel superior because I knocked them down a peg to a level that I had a good grasp of. However, you must remember that just because someone can climb higher doesn't mean they won't study each level as they go. Izuku nodded. I need to get stronger physically. I have good room to grow, and if I use my erasing half I can get tired quicker. I need to have even more stamina to spare. Glad to see you are thinking it through. Wish my class had your foresight. Shoda quietly walked down the hallway to leave, the way he and his son normally leave a conversation. It was quiet for a second until Inko looked her son in the eye. So do you like your new friend? I don't have any friends, Izuku said. He truthfully didn't, because kids were for some reason disliking of him because of his erasing half of his quirk. Bakugo seems like a friend. Bakugo broke my nose, Izuku replied. You then broke hers, and then you both quietly sat by each other while we cleaned your. That doesn't make us friends, Izuku said. It makes you something. Katsumi carefully put the flower that was splattered with her and Izuku's into a vase, for some reason wanting to keep it. The next morning Izuku decided to walk to school. The sky was dark because a storm was close to Musutafu. Perfect weather for Izuku because that meant no one else was outside. Hey Aizawa. Izuku relaxed too soon as he heard Katsumi call out to him. Izuku slowed his walking speed to let her catch up. Hello Bakugo. Your form sucks, Katsumi said as she copied Izuku's pace. It was enough to help me win, Izuku said. Yeah, well, it sucked. You got lucky. You were coming over after school so I can have someone else here with potential not suck. Thanks for the compliment. Wasn't a compliment. You still suck. I won. Following common sense, that means you suck more than me. Katsumi looked at him annoyed. I can kick your ass right here. I will just knee yours again and win, Izuku responded, ending it with a yawn. Katsumi hid her blush. Quit yawning, loser. My quirk takes stamina. I am always tired. Or weak. I guess that is something else to work on. It was an odd sight for the other students at Aldera Junior High when Izuku Aizawa and Katsumi Bakugo walked side by side into the school, after being at each other's throats the day before. "So your erasing half comes from your dad, I guess?" Katsumi asked as she ignored the odd looks she got for not coming in. Pissed off as usual. "Yes, although his is dependent on eye contact with the person or just looking at them. Yours isn't." "No, I think because of my mom's telekinetic energy. I can just feel quirks around me and hold one or two mentally. I want to work on it more to make it a bigger amount. While my parents had okay quirks but fused together on me, I can make my sweat, which has nitroglycerin and stuff in it, make explosions. So that's why you smell like caramel," Izuku said. Katsumi's cheeks got a slightly pink tint. "Yes." Katsumi's face turned redder when she remembered Izuku saying he liked caramel the day before. Izuku stopped talking, taking a yawn as they entered their class. "How much sleep do you get?" Katsumi didn't understand how he was always looking tired and yawning. "I get enough. I am always like this." Izuku slumped into his seat, putting his head down. Katsumi didn't say anything else to him, just sitting down in the desk beside him. She noticed a few students looking at her. "What the are you looking at?" 1 year later, Izuku sighed in content, the couch in his apartment feeling like heaven at that moment. The temperature of the apartment was just right and the pillow over his head was blocking light from getting in his eyes. It was a perfect situation for a Saturday morning, but sadly it was about to end. A key turning at the front door made Izuku think his parents came back from their romantic weekend way earlier than expected. But then he heard the world's loudest voice. "What's up, Lil Zawa?" shouted his godfather and father's best friend, Hisashi Yamada, also known as the pro hero Present Mike. Izuku made a sighing sound to let his godfather know where he was, hidden underneath an assortment of couch cushions and pillows. "That's not an excited way to greet your favorite aunt and uncle." His godmother, Nimuri Kayama, the pro hero Midnight, said. "Put some happiness into it." "That is my happiness," Izuku mumbled. "Come on out, Izu," Nimuri said. "Shoda and Inko wanted us to watch over you this weekend, so we thought it would be the perfect time to walk you around UA. Seeing as how no one is there, it would be interesting. But you two might start making out and I don't want to see that," Izuku replied. He loved his godparents, who have only started dating 2 years prior, but they, mostly his godmother, did tend to get a little handsy with the other godparent. "You know, if you didn't have that attitude about affection, you could have a girl to do that stuff with," Midnight said, not having met Katsumi but hearing all about the weird chemistry her godson and this girl had. "I'm 13, I don't need that kind of stuff yet." "You said yet, so clearly you plan on it. Why not start early and go pro?" Midnight grinned. "I prefer being a novice." "Come on, Lil Zawa, let's test out that theory you had. Gym Gamma at the school would be perfect for this." Hisashi was holding Izuku's large orange cat Marlowe and petting him. "Okay." Izuku slid out of his makeshift hut and shuffled to find his green shoes. "Gotta have more oomph to your step." Nimuri tried to get Izuku moving. "This is my oomph." "No, it's not. I have seen your real oomph," Nimuri replied. "When I have a reason for the real oomph, I will use it." Izuku grumbled as he slid his shoes on, yawning as he did so. "I still don't know how you and your father both spend half of your time laying around and you are still tired as hell," Nimuri said. "My quirk has that effect," Izuku replied. "You say that like you use it all the time," Nimuri pointed out. "The effect is constant." Izuku followed his godfather out the door. "I seriously doubt that it's nothing but you two being lazy," Nimuri laughed. "Your father tried to sleep during half of his classes. Luckily I was there to keep the good times rolling." Hisashi grinned. Katsumi ran out of her building, eager to start her Saturday training. Needing a sparring partner, she went to the one person who actually was a challenge, even if his lazy ass was a lazy ass. Before she even got to his building, she saw him, Izuku Aizawa, but with 2 adults she immediately recognized as pro heroes. "Lazy ass, you know Present Mike and Midnight," Katsumi said as she got closer. "Lazy ass PFFT, that's great." Midnight laughed. "They are my godparents," Izuku answered her in his usual tired tone. "You're telling me that for the past year you have never mentioned you had pro heroes as godparents?" Katsumi was ticked off. "You never mentioned your beautiful Auntie Kayama," Midnight gasped. "How rude. You must be the little firecracker I heard about." Hisashi grinned at Katsumi. "I'm best friends with his dad." "How did your lazy dad become best friends with Present Mike?" Katsumi asked Izuku. "He never mentioned that his dad is a pro hero either, did he?" Nimuri wanted to throw gasoline on the fire. Izuku felt some regret at sliding out of his couch hut. That lazy-looking guy. Katsumi didn't believe it at first. Then she connected some dots. First, Izuku has the erasing quirks ability from his father. His father is a pro hero and best friends with Present Mike. Your dad is a racerhead. Why didn't you ever say that? You never asked. Izuku shrugged. It was obvious anyways. Are you now calling me stupid? Katsumi jabbed him with a finger. I never said that. Izuku moved her finger away. I like you, Nimuri said to Katsumi. Most girls your age don't have that fire you do. Most girls my age can't hold a candle to my fire. Katsumi replied. Ooh, I really like you now. You're coming with us. Nimuri grinned. What? Izuku sounded annoyed. Where Katsumi didn't really want to hang out with Izuku's godparents for a lunch thing, even if they were pro-heroes. We were taking Lil Zawa to UA, so he can see the place and practice a theory of his there at a gym. Sold. I'm in. Katsumi grinned. Perfect. Nimuri clapped her hands. This place is huge, Katsumi said as she looked around the giant empty building. That was just one big area, known as Gym Gamma. This place is neat. As Ashi dropped his duffel bag. It gets better when our buddy Cementos is here, but it's the weekend so he is out. We can try it here, Izuku muttered, standing off to one side. Let's rock, Ashi grinned. Try what? Katsumi asked. Oh, he wants to see if he can use his telekinetic energy to replicate Ashi's quirk. Midnight answered. I can train you personally while they do that. Hell yeah, Katsumi grinned. Anything you are experimenting with? What is your quirk exactly? Nimuri asked. I can create explosions using my sweat because my body makes a mixture of chemicals. Katsumi then showed off her explosions. And just your hands? Nimuri asked. Katsumi looked confused for a second, not once thinking about explosions anywhere but her hands. I never tried anywhere else. Nimuri smiled. Luckily you got me, darling. Now, is the sweat spontaneous or can you mentally control the explosions going off? I just feel like it and they happen. So you are hardwired to making the chemicals that make your explosions. That opens possibilities, but before I go down that path, let's see if you can make explosions from your feet. My feet? Katsumi looked at her sneakers. Yep, take off anything you don't want to destroy. Alright, Lil Zawa, so how are you going to watch it happen exactly? I don't have an X-ray machine for you. As Ashi looked at his godson. It might feel weird, but I can try to use my telekinetic energy to put what can he explained as a mental hand on your throat. I can just feel it as it happens, and since my quirk sensory component of the erasing half had improved, I can actually sense more of your quirk. You can feel my quirk regardless. Hisashi has heard Shoda mention before that Izuku has an ability in his quirk where he can actually just feel quirks being around him. Yes, it sounds weird, but I can feel quirks around me, like a buzzing from each one that gets stronger when I am closer. Izuku didn't know how to properly explain his sensory ability. It was still developing. That would be good for stealth operations, being able to just feel people being around. Hisashi then clapped his hands together. Alright, I'm going to shout. Try to take your notes. Hisashi then let out a loud scream that shook the building. Not so loud, Nimuri scolded her partner from afar. Lazy ass wants to replicate that. Katsumi would hate if the normally quiet boy would start screaming. Not exactly, just enough to produce a shockwave attack. Izuku said he wanted to have an attack to copy from so he doesn't fire in the dark and set everything on fire. His telekinesis can make fires? Katsumi asked. Nope, or yes. The kid wasn't clear on the potential of his telekinesis. He said it wasn't just moving objects around. He got annoyed when I said that. Katsumi added. Now to blow up my feet. Katsumi focused on creating the same process she does for her palm explosions but for the soles of her feet. Feeling something, Katsumi wanted to jump in happiness at the idea of feet explosions. But the feet explosions did happen and made her get flipped into the air, landing on her back. Izuku saw the feat of growth by Katsumi and felt like saying nice job to her. But knowing the girl, she will think he was mocking her for landing on her ass. So do you think you can try from the one time watching? Hisashi asked. I think I got a good feel of the energy. Izuku nodded. Are you going to yell also? For now I guess I will have to. I need a template to follow with the telekinetic energy I have, and if that starts off with yelling I guess I have to. Izuku began to replicate how Hisashi's quirk worked by using his telekinetic energy to build in his throat. Yell something epic for your first yell, Hisashi said. Mine was fergalicious. Izuku ignored his godfather and shouted a simple sound that felt like it would work. Fuss. A burst of barely visible energy shot out of Izuku's mouth and blew in front of him like an air cannon. Not much, but hey, first try. Hisashi yelled. It doesn't help that we had nothing over there set up for us to see the effects. Well dang, didn't think of that. Hisashi snapped his fingers. I did as I used the ability. Izuku rubbed his throat. Does it strain at all? Hisashi asked. Only a little. I'm still not going to use it as much. Not until I can get it to go smoother. That is wise. Otherwise you might lose the 7,000 groans you make a day. Katsumi said as she and Nimuri got closer. Don't you have an inanimate objects to yell at to die? Izuku asked. Katsumi shook her head. Not at the moment. Either way, go away. Izuku said as he sat down. You are too close and it bugs me. I'm like 10 meters away from you, jackass, Katsumi yelled. And yet it sounds like you're right next to me. Izuku closed his eyes and attempted to meditate, to test his sensory skills. Oh, y'all know when I am next to you, Katsumi said as she turned to Midnight. Let's test more stuff for me to kick his ass with. Nimuri smiled. Let's just work on getting your explosions mastered with your feet. Izuku enjoyed how quiet it got around him. making a prayer of thanks that his godfather actually was quiet for once because Hisashi knew how important his sensory skills could be if mastered. Izuku took a breath and tried to stretch his range, which was just 5 meters was feeling more like 10. Uncle Hisashi, what's cracking? Lil Zawa Hisashi looked back to his nephew, having spent the last couple of minutes looking at Nimuri. Can you keeping walking away from me until I say stop? Izuku still had his eyes closed. Sure thing, bud. Hisashi started making slow steps away from Izuku. I stopped feeling you, Izuku said. Can you take a step closer? Got it, Hisashi said as he walked back a step. That's how far I can track a single person, Izuku said as he opened his eyes, seeing Hisashi a good 25 meters away. This isn't bad for a start, Hisashi said. With this you can definitely follow a single person on a tracking mission. Izuku shook his head. That's when there is little opposition, and only you around. More quirks around me will probably lower my distance, or make things harder to read. Still a good start. You could practice it during classes at school, Hisashi offered. I planned on it. I need to improve it more because this could be one of my better tools. Locating someone in a building on lockdown or lost in a disaster is perfect for this, and I can't waste it. Well, you know your favorite aunt and uncle will definitely help you with that, even if Nimuri was stolen by that girl. Hisashi chuckled. 2 months later, Izuku scowled as his attempt at the shout failed again. It seemed like he could do it at first, but now it was impossible. Are you still struggling? Katsumi asked as she threw another explosive kick at the board she set up. I know how to do it. I watched how Uncle Hisashi did it. I don't know why I can't just do it. Izuku kept his scowl. Maybe it's that your throat is different from present Mike's, Katsumi offered. His quirk makes his like that. Just go back around and do it more like you. I dunno. Izuku took the info and nodded. That's going to take a while to get correct. I can't just practice on myself without concern. Because of your telekinesis. Katsumi nodded. Because of my telekinetic energy. Izuku corrected. That's what I said. Katsumi shot Izuku a look. Telekinesis is simply moving objects with my mind. I have telekinetic energy, Izuku explained. What's the difference? Katsumi asked. Telekinetic energy can be used for more than just moving objects around, which is what telekinesis is. I can create platforms to walk on or stick objects together or shout and have a burst of the stuff go around you. Got it, Katsumi said. Wait, does this mean you can fly? No, Izuku answered immediately. What did you try and fall? Katsumi asked teasingly. I don't like heights, Izuku answered bluntly. Katsumi decided to change the topic. So you can make things stick to each other. Do you have to be right next to it for that to happen, or can you just think it? It's more like picturing them stuck together and using energy to keep them together. So you can climb walls if you wanted. Possibly. Do it? No. You're not going to trick me like that. Not trying to trick you, just calling you A. I don't call you names, because you're A. 4 months later, Katsumi turned to the tapping on her shoulder, shooting a glare as she really didn't want to be bothered that day. Izuku was sick from school and left her with a bunch of losers. What? Katsumi asked the girl. She knew her face but not her name. Katsumi remembered her as some random girl that was in chemistry with her and Izuku. Sorry to bother you, Bakugo. But do you know where Aizawa is? Lazy ass is sick, Katsumi answered. Why do you care? The girl looked nervous. I just wanted to I gotta go. Before the girl could leave, Katsumi blocked her path. Why were you asking? The explosive girl asked again. I'm not going to beat you up, so stop being a pansy. I just wanted to see if he wanted to go to a movie. The girl avoided eye contact with Katsumi. Katsumi felt an emotion she didn't recognize but decided to play it off. PFFT like he would willingly stay awake for a whole movie. That was nothing to be afraid of me for. I'm scary for other reasons. It's just you seem like you have I really have to leave now. The girl managed to slip past Katsumi. I seem like I have what? Katsumi repeated the question to herself. 6 months later. You know, this is the first time I have ever seen you do your hair, Mitsuki remarked as she watched her daughter struggle with the brush. She knew full well why Katsumi was doing her hair but wouldn't say it to her daughter, letting her have this one time. Izuku's parents were out of town again and Mitsuki had offered to feed him if he was too lazy to make his own food. He accepted the offer and was coming to their place soon. She had only said it to Masaru but purposely let Katsumi be in earshot to see what she would do. I just want to do my hair for once. Shut up, Katsumi growled. Are you finally getting to the age where you would rather look pretty than like a gremlin? Mitsuki grinned. At what age did you decide to become an old hag? Katsumi asked. Well, rude. And I was going to offer help. Mitsuki began to walk away. Good, I don't want help. Later, while looking in the mirror, she realized she should have asked for help. Katsumi's hair was a complete mess. The explosive girl knew she would regret it but said the words. Mom, can you help me do my hair? Mitsuki clapped from somewhere in the apartment. Finally, my daughter wants to be pretty. Katsumi already regretted her words. Izuku knocked on the door to the Bakugo's apartment and got met with a sight he didn't think was possible. Katsumi Bakugo, with her hair smoothed out in a bun and with a little bit of makeup on. Izuku couldn't help but notice how much her crimson eyes stood out, like flawless rubies. "Hey lazy ass," Katsumi greeted the boy, silently grinning at the fact that he had a stupid look in his eyes. "Hey Katsumi." Izuku regained his normality. "Your mom invited me over for dinner." "Yeah, I did." Mitsuki grinned. "Figured that skin and bones Shoda didn't leave you a proper meal and Inko could use the break from leaving you meals as well." "Thank you." Izuku nodded. "We have spicy curry tonight. Hope you like it hot because this stuff is really hot." That night the Bakugos learned that Izuku does not like spicy food, but he still ate it because it was a nice offer and he didn't feel like having Katsumi call him or again. 1 month later, Izuku groaned as the concoction in front of him popped, splattering the hot mess on his face. Inko snorted at the irritated look Izuku made while he stood staring at the pot. "Honey, do you want help? I will mess it up on my own," Izuku stated, annoyed he couldn't make simple curry. "Here honey, take this." Inko handed Izuku a towel for his face. "I can guide so it really is just you making it." "Thank you mom." Izuku smiled. "I still don't see why you had to cook her a gift for her birthday." Inko said, "That way she will stop pestering me for a little bit." Izuku said flatly. Inko didn't add anything, feeling like there was more to it than that. "About time you showed up lazy ass," Katsumi said as he and Inko entered the Bakugo's home. "Sorry I was messing up," Izuku stated as he carried the bowl to the kitchen. "What's that, afraid of my mom's cooking again?" Katsumi followed him, not aware of Inko saying hi or her mom snickering at that. "No, I wasn't even afraid last time. I just don't like spicy food." "Because you're a wuss." "What is it then?" Izuku took the lid off of the bowl so she would stop asking the same question over and over again. "It's spicy curry." Katsumi gasped as she saw her favorite meal. "Curry, spicy curry," Izuku repeated. "I used those peppers you mentioned before and added a few other things that you had said were amazing as hell." Katsumi looked at the bowl again, then to Izuku's face, the tired-looking boy having his usual facial expression, but she noticed a few flecks of curry on his face, as well as his sleeves. Obviously, he struggled with the curry. "You didn't have to make me curry." Katsumi felt a blush show up. "Happy birthday." Izuku ignored her statement. "Why do you look upset?" Mitsuki asked her daughter later that night. Katsumi didn't answer immediately, still not letting go of the fact that the lazy-ass guy she knew made something with actual effort. The curry was actually good too. "I'm fine," Katsumi grumbled. "Okay, liar," Mitsuki said. "I'm not lying," Katsumi yelled. Mitsuki rolled her eyes. "Sweetie, you are bad at hiding emotions." "Well, you're bad at hiding being an old hag." Katsumi pointed a finger at her mother. "First off, that is rude. Don't take out your confusion over your boyfriend on me," Mitsuki responded. "It'll be rude all I wait." Katsumi flipped off her mom. "So you aren't denying he is your boyfriend?" Mitsuki asked. "Aizawa is not my boyfriend," Katsumi snapped. "I never said Izuku. He wasn't the only boy here at your party." Mitsuki grinned. "Shut up." Katsumi put her face into her pillow. "I'm just teasing. Pretty sure he likes girls who don't call him a dumbass every hour anyways." Mitsuki closed the door as a pillow got launched at it. 3 months later, Izuku did not want to get out of his hiding spot, afraid of all of the social interactions that people were bound to drop on him. It was the one day a year that no matter how hard he tried, people will find him and they would another him with affection. Izuku wasn't ungrateful of the affection, it was just too loud. The fateful day was his birthday, his 15th to be exact. "Izuku Aizawa, get out here now," Inko said loud enough for their entire home to hear. "Guests will be here in a few hours, so get ready." Inko got silence in return as a response before she shot her husband a look. "He gets this from you." Shoda continued eating his breakfast. "Anyone who has had to deal with me can tell you it is easier to get me before I get the chance to hide." Shoda handed Marlo a piece of bacon. "We can just ask Marlo to find Izuku, it's his specialty." Inko sighed, before petting the cat. "Marlo, go find your lazy owner." Marlo purred before sniffing the air, and then walking to the guest room. Inko following as Marlo tried to climb higher to get in the closet's upper shelves. Inko used her telekinesis to open the small doors. "Izuku, get out of there." She wasn't going to ask how Izuku got up there anyways, seeing as how both of the men in her life could just do that. Izuku sighed as he pet his beloved cat. "You're a traitor." Marlo meowed as Izuku scratched the feline's neck. Izuku slid off of the shelf and onto the floor, walking out of the guest room. "I don't know why you still keep trying this every year," Inko said as Izuku walked up to the dining room with Marlo in his hands. "1 year I might get lucky." Izuku yawned. Shoda chuckled, remembering how he used to be that naive. "Not while you are in this household," Inko said as she gave Izuku a wrapped present. "Happy birthday, Izu." Izuku opened it to see it was a jacket, similar in design to his father's hero suit except it was a dark shade of green, and the sleeves were a bit loose and ended right at his elbows. "It has multiple pockets, is fireproof, and I asked for padding since you like to sleep everywhere." Inko smiled. "Thanks, Mom." Izuku loved his new jacket. Shoda put a box that was in the seat next to him on the table. "It wasn't wrapped like his mother's gift. I couldn't decide between the two, so I am giving you a choice, son." Shoda opened the box for Izuku and he could see the same capture tool that his father wore as a scarf in there. With this comes lessons on how to use it. Your style is different from mine, but you have enough flexibility to learn my style. Or we can make a new one just for you. Izuku nodded. I actually do have an idea for a new style. Shoda smiled. Alright then, later let's start talking about it. Inko started to nudge Izuku towards his room. Go freshen up and this time put on your actual nice clothes. Izuku groaned but complied. What's cracking, Lil Zawa Hazashi asked as he entered the home. Izuku raised his hand as a wave to his uncle, wanting to sit silently by his father watching an old western film on the TV. Not even on your birthday do you have your oomph, Nimari asked as she sat next to Hazashi on the other couch in the living room. Izuku shook his head. My oomph is charging from last week. Nimari raised an eyebrow. What happened last week? Izuku and Bakugo decided to start upping their training together. Shoda answered for his son. Nimari smirked. She too much for you. The training is fine, it's just tiring. Izuku responded. So you're saying she is just down for you? Nimari asked. I can throw you and that couch out of the window without moving from my spot, Izuku said, mostly joking. But is it worth the effort? His aunt asked. No, Mom will yell. The boy answered. You Aizawas sure are afraid of Inko. Hazashi said. I didn't get to see what happened at UA. That made Shoda here afraid of her, as well as like her, but it must have been interesting. None of the Aizawa men answered. However, Shoda had flashbacks to his time at UA, where Inko became more assertive about the fact that they both liked each other. Here's my gift to you, kiddo. Nimari handed Izuku a pair of goggles just like Aizawa's, except lime green. I figured you might like to hide your glowing eyes just like your dad. Shoda looked at the goggles. Is that the pair you took from my desk? Nimari nodded. Yep, I just repainted them. Shoda only gave Nimari a look, deciding that he didn't really use that exact pair anyways. Though presents are now, Hazashi asked as he left to grab his. Give me 1 second. I'm surprised your little friend isn't here, Nimari said to her godson. I'm surprised you didn't bring her, Izuku said back. Ever since meeting her 5 months ago, Nimari basically adopted Katsumi and made her a personal student. Oh, so you wanted her here? Nimari gained a smile. That wasn't said. Izuku decided to try and fall asleep. Here it is. Lil Zawa Hazashi made his return known, holding a piece of tech similar to his own neck speakers. I figured you would like the boost to your shout since it isn't gaining much ground. This bad boy should amplify your energy shouts. Do you dig it? Izuku took the speaker and nodded. I like it. He asked if you digged it. Shoda added, wanting to mess with his son for a second. Izuku sighed. I dig it. Hazashi clapped his hands. That's what's up. Hazashi and Ko snapped as she came in from the kitchen. I told you about yelling. Hazashi sat down quietly and had a sheepish look. Now you know, Shoda said to his friend. Soon his aunt and uncle, as well as some friends of his parents that knew of Izuku somewhat, had left, leaving just Izuku and his parents. So it wasn't that bad this year, Shoda said to his son. Hazashi only got loud twice. Last year was 8. Izuku nodded, running Marlowe's head. It was okay, I guess. So what were you thinking of for your own style? Shoda asked his son. The tired boy moved his arms. I can have 2 sets, on each forearm. My sensory ability can help me know what's happening around me and my telekinetic powers can help guide the tools when I need the help. Shoda nodded. That style will definitely be hard to learn. I think you can do it. I think I can too. With this style I can take down 2 at once or strike one opponent at 2 different areas. Or I can combine my telekinetic powers with it and use them to swing around. Think you can learn all of this before your test? What test? Izuku looked at his father. I recommended you to UA. Here's your letter accepting the recommendation. Shoda pulled the letter from UA out of his pocket. Your mother would have killed me if I didn't mention you at all when the principal asked us if we have seen anyone noteworthy. I assumed that Uncle Hazashi and Aunt Nimari also said something. Izuku opened his letter. They waited till after I did and then they both wouldn't shut up. Shoda nodded. This year's recommendation exams are different. They actually have 2 more slots to get in through recommendations. Why did they add 1 more for each hero class? Izuku yawned. Nezu said this year had more potential than previous years and wants more people to shine. Shoda shrugged. So I have to put in more effort, Izuku groaned. How much more effort? Probably more than what you would want to give. That doesn't clear it up. Izuku put his head against the table softly. I know, Shoda chuckled. Katsumi cursed as the stuff came out all raw. Are you really having trouble still? Mitsuki looked in her kitchen amused. Shut up, Katsumi snapped. It's not that hard. Do you want help? Mitsuki asked. No, Katsumi shouted before she cursed under her breath. Please help me. For starters, you have the oven set to the wrong temperature and you are pulling them out too late. Mitsuki entered the kitchen to help her daughter. You know he probably would have not minded if you got him a pillow. The boy sleeps all of the time. I don't care. He cooked something I like, so I am returning the favor. Katsumi grabbed more ingredients. You don't need that much sugar. Mitsuki grabbed everything from her daughter. You can't trick him into thinking you're sweet. I am a gumdrop. So you are trying to make him think you're sweet? Mitsuki asked. No off and help me. Katsumi threw a spoon at her mom, not hard enough to actually hurt. It was now close to sunset. Izuku had fallen asleep with Marlowe on his chest, behind the couch in the living room. Inko and Shoda were both drinking tea at the table. It's odd that Katsumi didn't show up. She is his closest friend, Inko said. I'm willing to bet his only friend, Shoda commented before Inko smacked his arm. Izu is delightful. He has tons of friends. You had to yell at him to stop hiding in a closet shelf and go to his own birthday party. Shoda sipped his tea. He only talks to a handful of students, probably because he has to, but Bakugo is definitely his only friend. He is still pleasant. Inko stood firm on that. When he is actually comfortable around people, yes. A knock at the door interrupted them. Inko opening the door to see an irritated-looking Katsumi holding a case. Hello, Katsumi. Inko smiled. How are you today? Hello, Mrs. Aizawa. Is Izuku here? Katsumi asked. Asleep behind the couch. Inko pointed to the said couch. Katsumi was brought in. She set the case down on the coffee table before she walked around the couch and began to poke Izuku's nose. Hey. Katsumi began to repeat the word as she poked him. A groan from Izuku let her know he had woken up, opening his eyes a second later. Hi, lazy ass. Happy birthday. Katsumi waved to the boy below her, not questioning his sleeping on the floor behind a couch. Hey. Izuku yawned as he sat up, turning to face her. It's kinda late. I still have 5 more hours in this day to bug you. Katsumi grabbed the case and held it towards Izuku. Here you go. Izuku opened it and saw a tray of caramel. You made caramel. My mom helped me but was annoying. Katsumi admitted. You made me my favorite food for my birthday, so I decided to make you your favorite treat. Izuku took a piece of the caramel and ate it. Loving the taste, Izuku smiled. Katsumi felt something seeing him smile at the caramel. So you like it or what? Izuku nodded. It's amazing. Katsumi blushed. She decided to leave before he noticed the blush. I need to get home, so see you later, lazy ass. Bye, Katsumi. Izuku said as he took another square of caramel. Katsumi realized that was the first time she ever saw him smile. Inko looked at Shoda and had a huge grin. Did you see that? I'm sitting right next to you. Shoda replied, before Inko rolled her eyes. That was adorable. Inko commented on what they watched. Shoda nodded while sipping his tea. 4 months later, Izuku grunted as he fell to the ground. Are you okay, dumbass? He heard the voice of Katsumi calling out from above him. Izuku picked himself up off the ground, noticing his elbow. I'm good enough, Izuku shouted back as he began to rewrap his forearms with the now familiar tools. Give me a second to get up there. Izuku and Katsumi were practicing their mobility with their quirks, Katsumi having more fluidity as she can now create explosions expertly from her palms and feet, being able to propel herself through the air, which she added to her fighting style. Izuku's way of travel was different. He could use his telekinetic energy to make the ends of his bandage-like rope tools stick to walls and surfaces and swing that way, or use his own palms and feet to stick and climb. If he ever felt tired physically going through the air, he could also use his telekinetic energy to create a momentary platform to catch his breath on. Katsumi has tried to talk Izuku into trying to actually levitate himself and fly, but he still wouldn't budge on the issue, saying that the way he did it was fine and he doubted he could get the smoothness required of levitating down anyways. Izuku decided to just climb the wall now instead of overexerting his elbow, climbing it quickly to not have to be yelled at. Getting over the edge of the roof, he let out a breath, having tired himself out almost both mentally and physically that day training. Hey cool, you're not dead. Katsumi wiped the sweat from her forehead. Could have checked to see if I was alright. I slammed my elbow into the ground. I didn't hear you curse, so there was no bad pain. Plus you got up here with no help. Izuku yawned, now lying in his back on the roof. Katsumi dropped next to him. Well, now you can act tough. Oh yes, because being tough is my main goal right now, not sharpening my other skills. Being tough increases those as a result. I think I already am tough. If I can break the self-proclaimed badass nose, that counts. Izuku stated. You got lucky, Katsumi retorted. If I recall, I used an opportunity and need your ass. You are always going to gloat about that, aren't you? Katsumi felt her face heat up. I'm not gloating. I just like to refer you to it every time your head gets too big. Well, I broke your nose too for having your head up your own ass, which I am glad you did because arrogance would have been my downfall. Taking a nap during a fight is going to be your downfall. I would not fall asleep in combat. If you can fall asleep during Uncle Hazashi's karaoke, then I think you can sleep through anything. I love your confidence in me. Izuku yawned. In your sleeping ability. Which isn't a good thing, lazy ass. Whatever, angry ass. Izuku had a little smile as he tried to doze off. Katsumi continued to look at the darkening sky while Izuku slept next to her. 3 months later, Izuku's breathing was so low it was hard to tell if he was still breathing. The only way anyone could tell he was awake or alive was the glowing lime green around his hands and eyes, as well as his hair floating slightly. Izuku could feel every person and quirk in a clear radius of 20 meters of him, Focusing on one person in particular, he could sharpen his sense on them and the immediate meter around them. Katsumi watched Izuku, waiting to see if he would overdo it like last time. All she had to see to stop him was even a drop of his. She didn't want to see him hospitalize himself again like last month, so she made him swear to only practicing when she or someone else was there to make sure he would be fine. Katsumi got a dirty look when she saw some leak out of his nose, but Izuku didn't stop. Katsumi shook his shoulder. "Hey dumbass, I know you felt that." Izuku took a second to pull his energy back. Opening his eyes, he scowled, not at Katsumi but at his lack of progress. Him still at the same distance. Katsumi smacked his arm. "I don't care. You're not sending yourself to the hospital again." She didn't understand how he always tried to warn her of her limits, but on this one skill of his he always overdoes it. That's not how exercise works. You don't break an arm to make it stronger. Actually, bones repair themselves denser than before, so they do come back stronger. Izuku explained. "I'm not letting you break your brain, dumbass." Katsumi glared at him. Izuku sighed. "They'll be more careful next time." "Good. If you don't, I am going to break your nose again." Katsumi threatened. "Like every time, I will break yours right back." Izuku yawned and cleaned the from his nose. "You can't touch me anymore. I'm too fast for your lazy ass." 2 months later, Izuku ducked underneath the explosion-powered kick, charging his telekinetic energy to his head like a glove as he tried to uppercut Katsumi. Katsumi used an explosion in her foot that was still on the ground to shoot herself into the air to avoid the hit, raising an arm to use the explosion from it to drop her right on top of Izuku. Izuku used his telekinetic energy to make a dome over himself to prevent Katsumi from getting a hit, feeling a drop of cum from his nose as she cracked the dome. That counts as a hit. Katsumi hopped off of the dome, still in her fighting stance. "We clearly stated physical contact makes it count." Izuku jumped backwards away from Katsumi. "So no, you're bleeding." Katsumi pointed to his nose. "You cracked my dome. That's not physical contact with me." "Oh, I will give you physical contact." Katsumi got back to trying to land a hit on Izuku, who did the same in return. Nimari grinned as she ate her sandwich and watched the two kids spar. "They have gotten so much improvement in these past couple of months," Hisashi commented. "They have. But more interesting to me is how they still interact with each other." Nimari smiled. "That is definitely interesting. Honestly, without Lil Bakugo, I doubt Lil Zawa would be as far as he is." Hisashi nodded. "Oh, definitely. He would never admit it though. They feed off of each other, not even competitively most of the time." "Do you not hear Lil Bakugo trying to make everything a contest all the time?" "I do. She is just trying to coax him into putting more effort in. That's a hard task to do with any Aizawa." Hisashi laughed. "Lord knows how she does it. My theory is blackmail, or she kept forcing Shoda to do things with her until it became normal for him and he wouldn't like going without her." Nimari nodded to her own line of thinking. "I think I remember him saying how she snapped at him during our first sports festival and it made him afraid of her." Hisashi said. "Maybe she asked him after that and he was too afraid of saying no. We could ask Izu, he might know." Nimari said as she watched Izuku bounce off of the wall of the gym to get out of the corner Katsumi was trying to trap him in. Katsumi smirked as she watched Izuku land and stand a few meters away from her. "Shouldn't you be tired by now, lazy ass? Shouldn't you be screaming by now, angry ass?" Izuku asked flatly as he rushed in. Off Katsumi also rushed in. They both tried to get a punch in, and both hit each other at the same time, cracking each other's noses. The pair both reeled back in pain from the shared injuries. Izuku ignored his nose and looked at Katsumi's own. "Are you alright?" "Psshye. How about you? I know you are weak sometimes, so that could last a while." Katsumi wasn't going to admit to Izuku that strike from him had serious strength behind it. She misses the days where he was scrawny instead of built, although she wasn't complaining too much. "Luckily you only cracked it." Izuku rubbed his nose before using his telekinetic energy to adjust it back into place. Katsumi smirked. "Luckily, were you expecting me to do worse? You create explosions in your palms at will." Izuku replied as he rolled his shoulders. "So who hit who first?" Katsumi asked. "You hit me first." Izuku lied. They did it simultaneously, but he didn't want to argue about it. "Ha, so I am better." Katsumi laughed, although she felt like he was lying. "Good spar, little kid is." Nimari clapped. "Now cool off before I make you two do more things." Izuku took that as a sign to drop to the floor and take a quick nap. "Hey Lil Zawa." Hisashi gently nudged the prone boy with his foot. "What exactly happened when your parents met?" Izuku groaned at the interruption of his nap. "They first met when they ended up in general studies together their first year at UA." And Nimari said, "Details." "They didn't talk for the first 2 weeks of class." And Nimari said again, "Ask them." Izuku yawned. Nimari felt a tick mark grow on her head, but she wasn't really surprised with his response. "You are horrible at conversating, you know that, right?" Izuku didn't respond, actually falling asleep. "I can kick him if you want," Katsumi offered. "Nah, leave him." Nimari stopped the girl in her tracks. "You can just beat him up during your spar later this afternoon." Katsumi grinned. "You already know." It was now nighttime and both of the kids were by themselves at Izuku's apartment, his parents both staying late at their jobs. "So why is your dad at UA?" This late at night, Katsumi asked from her position on one of the two couches. Izuku yawned. Apparently UA has decided to become a dorm school next year. He is there to offer ideas and other stuff he will probably sleep through. "So when do you do this recommended student shit?" Katsumi did feel jealous that out of the two of them he got a recommendation, but he did have a powerful quirk and has a lot of potential. "Next week. After another week I hear how I did and you also do your entrance exam, which I obviously will ace. Don't know why they put me with the other losers and not with your elite people. Dad, Uncle Hizashi and Aunt Nimori all pushed my recommendation before you were questioned." Izuku sighed. "You can take my spot if you want it. I would like a recommended spot. But I also want to break the record in the normal entrance exam to show everyone I am the boss. Don't just destroy everything. Dad told me they score 2 categories and they don't mention the second one." "Why would he tell you?" "Because I'm not taking it," Izuku answered as Marlowe jumped on his couch for attention, which Izuku gladly gave. "HMPH, what's the second category?" "During the practical half they let you all fight robots and stuff obviously, but you also get points if you help other test takers, especially when it happens." "When what happens?" Katsumi asked in confusion. "I'm not giving you all the answers. Got to do it yourself," Izuku said. "You're just being lazy." "Maybe that's why you call me lazy ass," Izuku responded. "Definitely why I call you a lazy ass." Katsumi smiled. It was now a week later, and Izuku stood in front of the building where his ex for UA would begin. "Don't overdo your telekinetic powers," Shoda said as a last bit of info. "I know," Izuku nodded. "Your mother says good luck and to kick ass." "I will try." Bakugo was also at the apartment earlier. "Wanted to say that if you failed she would kick your ass." "I figured." Izuku nodded. "Also remember, half of recommended prospects have their heads up their own ass since they are kids of pro heroes or have powerful quirks." "You mean like me a few years ago?" Izuku asked. "Yep, so ignore them." "Have I ever actually talked to people willingly? They come to me and it sucks," Izuku said. "Anything else?" "For some reason the loudest person possible always finds the Aizawas of their time and will attach themselves to us. It's a curse, you can't fight it. I tried and he is my best friend and your godfather." "What do you want me to do about it?" Izuku felt like it was impending doom. "Go with it. They learn to be a little quieter around you. I already have Katsumi as a loud ass friend, shouldn't that count?" Shoda shook his head sadly. "I'm sorry, but with you I feel like it will be different." "That's not fair. Life's not fair." Shoda nodded. He nudged Izuku to the door of the building. "Take your test now. I know you will pass." Izuku had a small smile. "See you, Dad." Izuku entered the building, ready to take his test for UA. Izuku bit back his groan at how loud it was when he entered the first testing site. It was one of the larger rooms in the building and had multiple seats for the written portion of their test. As much as Izuku didn't want to put in extra effort, he knew he should focus hard during this test. He could, however, find his desk and sleep until they told them to begin. That would make people lower their expectations for sure. "Hi, I'm Inasa Yurashi," someone yelled to the person next to Izuku, who Izuku ignored because he wanted to sleep. "Isn't it great to be here?" The girl Inasa was talking to looked startled by his loud enthusiasm. "I'm Momo Yaoyorozu. It is nice to be here," Momo said. Inasa had a smile. "I love meeting new people and learning about them. If it isn't too much, can I ask you what your quirk is? I can go first." "My quirk is..." "It would be smarter to wait till later to say your quirk." Izuku didn't know why he opened his mouth. He didn't raise his head from the desk, however. Inasa stopped and looked at the disheveled-looking boy. "Did you not sleep before coming here? Are you that excited?" Inasa asked with barely hidden enthusiasm, because he believed he might have found someone more passionate than him about this. Izuku replied with sarcasm. "Yep, I haven't slept for a week." Inasa's grin got bigger. "That is the type of excitement and passion I live for. I thought I was excited, barely getting an hour of sleep last night. And here you are with no sleep for the past week." Izuku wondered if this guy didn't understand sarcasm, or just was too excited at the idea of someone else being, as he called, passionate. Either way, Izuku should be smart and drop the conversation before his dad's words become true. "I need to sleep now though, so please quiet down," Izuku asked. Inasa nodded. "Right, I can't get in the way of someone else's passion." Inasa took the seat right next to Izuku, having forgotten he was talking to the girl Yaoyorozu. Momo looked confused for a second before going back to her encyclopedia. "Hello, prospects of the UA recommendation exams." The mouse bear hybrid known as Principal Nezu greeted the students as he entered. Half of the students greeted him, including Inasa, who waved. Izuku had picked his head up but was still half asleep. "We have a few challenges here today to help us whittle down to the 6 of you that will become the 6 students who will carry over to UA. First we have the written test, which we will stop once we have 60 of you with a passing score above our limit of 90%. Please do not rush, as just because people finish first doesn't mean they have the agreeable score. After that, the 60 people will be split into groups of 10 for the next challenge, which will be a teamed effort with 5 two-man teams made up of that 10. After that, we will have the final challenge, which won't be revealed until that moment. I also want to mention that as it is normally done every year where the recommended students are split down the middle to be separated into our 2 hero course classes this year. Much like how we changed it from 4 prospects to 6, we have changed another standard. The 6 people will not be shifted randomly. In fact, this year on we plan on delicately picking through the next year's students and making a class that will help each other grow. So all 6 of you might be in the same class, or one of you all by yourself. It is unknown right now. Nezu paused for a second. Good luck on your exams. Everyone began their exams, Izuku yawning before he opened it. Some people gave him looks thinking he was trying to say it was easy. Before they, like the test of the people, could see he looked like he needed sleep. Everyone figured he would be the first one out. 2 hours of his life wasted later, Izuku was standing next to 9 other people, not bothering to try and learn anything about them. He wasn't being arrogant. He just knew that he could ask whoever gets partnered with him if he needs it. Hey, you're Aizawa, right? Izuku looked up to see a guy who easily was stronger physically than him. The guy had tan skin, shoulder-length spiky red hair, and black eyes. He couldn't guess what the guy's quirk was based on appearance, so it was probably an emitter-type quirk. Yeah, Izuku yawned. Why did I have to get partnered with the sleeping one? The guy groaned to himself. You're just lucky, Izuku said as he shifted his legs. All right, kiddos, gather round so I can give you the news, Hisashi said to the 10 kids. Izuku exhaled at the thought of his uncle being the proctor for his exam. He will actually have to put in more effort than he intended because Hisashi will know if he is half-assing. All right, kiddos, the goal is the 5 teams of you must eliminate each other and be the last time here in the section of our simulated city, or find the box before the others. You don't just touch it, you have to open it. Hisashi held up a picture of a gold box that had UA written on the front. We will not condone excessive or unnecessary violence. You'll have to show restraint and such in hero work, so it should be expected here as well. In order to eliminate someone, you must hit this bad boy. Hisashi held up a black vest with 5 orange lights in a circle on the front and back. 5 times. Once your lights are out, you are out. It is not one person out and the team is out. If you get eliminated but your teammate goes on to win, you get to ride their success. Everyone must wear this. The straps are adjustable, and I will show you kids to the 5 entry points into the section of town you are given. No one enters until I give the okay. Anyone enters early, I will disqualify you, and you won't get to ride the coattails of your teammate if they win. Final note, once again, first 2 with their hands in the box win. Everyone nodded to show their understanding. Izuku and his teammate got the blue-colored vests, Izuku's fitting him snugly. All right, kids, let's go. Hisashi began to lead them to their points of entry. Are you going to stand there with your eyes closed, or are you going to help me so we can pass? Izuku's teammate asked him. Izuku frowned but didn't open his eyes. You don't even know what my quirk is, so maybe me standing here with my eyes closed is me preparing my quirk. His teammate scoffed. I feel like you are just trying to find an excuse to be lazy. Think whatever you want, Izuku replied. Assuming things beforehand can lead to your downfall. His teammate turned all the way to face Izuku. Want to talk shit? I'm not saying it against you. I'm just giving a warning. Izuku sighed. Opening his eyes, he could see the guy was looking mad. Look, calm down or we will both fail. Do you really want to fail because you got pissy with a guy who looks like he needs a nap? Izuku's teammate continued to give him a dirty look for a second before he looked forward to the entrance. First chance I am getting, I am knocking your teeth in. Izuku has heard way worse threats from Katsumi. Granted, she never really meant them after the first few months, but still. Oh boy, can't wait. Hisashi sighed when he watched the interaction. Izuku doesn't leave good first impressions with some people. I think we should focus on finding the box. It's a 5-block area and most buildings are 3 stories tall at most. Izuku finally spoke. That, all we got to do is eliminate the other 8. I can do that on my own. That is a dumb idea. One of the other teams could easily decide to sneak around, avoid us and find the box. Izuku could use his sensing to find people nearby, but still chasing people for a fight when the better option is to find a gold box was a terrible idea. You're probably trying to avoid fighting because you can't. Once again, assuming things beforehand is unwise, Izuku replied. He thought about how he really didn't need this guy to win, so he probably could just let him go get himself eliminated. However, he shouldn't let an idiot run into a fire, even if the idiot was trying to do it willingly. How about we search for the box and fight anyone we see without question, Izuku offered. His teammate nodded. That works. Before we start, my quirk is that I can harden every hair on my body to a sharp point. I call it Quill, which happens to be my name. Name makes sense. I never gave my quirk a name, Izuku replied. Why? Quill asked, confused about it. Izuku shrugged. I have both of my parents' quirks side by side. Naming it seems irritating. Just use one word for both then. Telekinetic eraser then. Izuku decided. Telekinetic eraser. Quill looked even more confused. I have telekinetic energy and I can also erase quirks for a while. Izuku yawned. I can't do both at the same time, however. Cancel out. How about this? You erase their quirks if they get close, however you do it. I can just mentally do it by looking at them or thinking about them. Okay, you erase their tricks and I slam their heads into the ground. Quill cracked his knuckles. You're excessively aggressive. Okay, I guess. Izuku would use his telekinetic energy to make sure no one got hurt too bad. Okay, everybody. Ash's voice came over the speakers. It's time to boogie. Izuku followed Quill into their section of the city, really wishing he was allowed to bring his tools, missing his arm wraps. However, the recommendation exams specified no outside tools as to test them at their base strength. Even his jacket was considered as a tool somehow since it was padded. He only had his default outfit of a loose, dark green, long-sleeved shirt, black slacks, and boots he was given by Katsumi. Somehow the boots, despite having steel in the heel and toes, was not considered a tool like his jacket, which only had fireproof padding. Quill kicked down the door of the first building, not caring about stealth at all. Izuku wanted to groan, but this guy doesn't exactly like him, so he stifled it. Izuku heard a boom to the north. There are some people, Quill said, eager to fight. Wait 1 second. Izuku put his arm in front of the door Quill was about to kick down. Let me sense them so we can jump them swiftly. Quill was going to argue but didn't. How do you sense them? Just give me 1 second. Izuku took a breath, focusing his sensing capabilities to locate quirks in the nearby area. Instead of finding the team to the north, he felt a pair of quirks advancing towards them from the south, probably wanting to fight the team they were going after as well. I didn't find them, but another group will be going through that alley heading north. Izuku pointed to the alley. Quill grinned. Excellent. Tell me when I can jump out the window. Quill got closer to the window and activated his quirk. Red hairs standing up like quills all over his body where he didn't have clothing. Izuku focused on the group again, noticing how they turned sharply away from the alley. They turned. Izuku then fell over as one of the two he was tracking had used their quirk to take down the wall. What's up? A silver-haired kid grinned as the wall fell apart under his strength quirk. He had an orange-colored vest on. A fellow telekinetic. A girl with pink hair stepped into the area and eyed Izuku. I felt your energy. Well, feel this. Quill jumped at her and attempted to level a punch to her, but the silver-haired boy intercepted. Hey, I want action too. The boy tried to attack Quill, but he blocked the attack. The silver-haired boy cutting his fist on Quill's quills. Oh, not that action. The pink-haired girl looked at Izuku. Let's see who the better telekinetic is. Izuku swapped to his erasing power, focusing on her. No, the pink girl looked confused as she couldn't use her quirk anymore. Izuku took the chance and quickly struck her 2 times, the girl snapping out of her confusion and blocking the third strike. Izuku easily dodged around her attacks, her combat skill being subpar, most likely to over-reliance on her quirk. Izuku deactivated the silver-haired boy's quirk as well, just for reassurance. Izuku got another step in on the pink-haired girl before she finally got one on him, taking him down to 4 hits left. Izuku jumped back and swapped quickly to his telekinetic energy, creating a wall of lime green energy between the two teams. What the hell? Quill looked at Izuku. Izuku took a breath. Just wait, I was trying to catch my breath. So you pause, everyone. Yes, thank me later. Izuku stood as he normally did, slouched with his hands in his pockets. Thank you for what? Quill asked as he got his answer. The telekinetic energy wall moved, smacking the 2 enemy test takers against a wall, pinning them as it stayed there. You're both trapped and pinned, so surrender. Izuku gave a bored look to the 2 trapped kids. The silver-haired guy got an annoyed look. Heroes don't surrender. Idiots also don't surrender. Izuku added. You are clearly outclassed. Have 1 cut-up hand and 1 strike left before you both are out. I was trying to let you leave with dignity, but never mind, I guess. Izuku yawned and released the wall. Do whatever you want, Izuku said to Quill as he walked the opposite way. Quill grinned before quickly attacking both people, eliminating them both. He caught up to Izuku outside. You can actually fight, he remarked. Orange team is eliminated, Hasashi yelled into his mic to announce. Apparently, Izuku said as he looked ahead. There were approximately 20 buildings in their section of city, with an average of 3 or 4 floors each. The gold box was supposedly as big as Izuku's arm, which meant it could be hidden in many places. There was no time limit for this challenge. Each team had lives, and the city section was big enough that just searching would take a few hours. This was a test to see how people would act in a tense situation, where a main goal is in mind but everything made the side goal more appealing, in just eliminating other test takers. For all Izuku knew, he could be overthinking the test, and the proctors were just making a challenge to watch them use their quirks and how they react to situations. However, if Izuku were to place the gold box, given he actually had motivation to do so, he would place it somewhere obvious but not too obvious. He needed to get to higher ground to take a guess. Can you climb? Izuku turned to Quill. What, like walls? Yay. Quill showed that the quills he had in his palm can give him leverage on a wall. Why? I might be able to figure out where the gold box is, but I have to climb somewhere high. Can you even climb? Quill asked. Izuku stuck his hands to the wall of the building using his telekinetic energy and began to scale the wall. I'll take that as a yes. Quill began to follow his teammate up the building. Once Izuku got to the two, he looked around. This building was 3 stories tall, so the average for their area. The tallest building was 6 stories tall, being the only one at that level. Alright, so what is your plan of finding that box? Quill asked, having gained a little respect for Izuku seeing his fighting style. Give me 1 second to try and think. Izuku asked. It would be too blatantly obvious to put it in that one. Maybe the next 2 would be the best options, only 2 buildings being 5 stories tall. It would be 1 step down from a completely obvious place, but also again, Izuku might be overthinking it. What building would you think the gold box is in? Izuku asked without opening his eyes. Quill looked at the buildings around them. The tallest building here is probably an obvious place it wouldn't be placed, unless they wanted us to think that it would be too obvious and have us look everywhere else to waste time. Izuku sighed. Maybe they are trying to test whether we would go somewhere right in the open where we would be a target. We just eliminated a team without taking a single hit. Everyone else is targets. Quill walked to the edge of the building. I might not be correct, but hear me out. Biggest building. It's blatantly right there in the center of our area. It has the most spots to hide the thing. And if not, we will inevitably run into another team and we can take them out. Red team has been eliminated, Hisashi announced. Izuku nodded to Quill. If anyone is there, I can use my sensory ability to warn us. Is that thing just for people? Quill was about to ask why Izuku couldn't just locate the box with that ability. I can only focus on people, or their quirks as my ability is right now, Izuku explained as he went to the edge of the building. Not liking the height, Quill began stretch. Hopefully you are as athletic as you are tired. Quill ran and jumped to the building across from them, landing on the roof. Izuku, making sure not to look down, created a platform to walk across to Quill, who shrugged and began to go to the next edge closer to the central building, which was only 4 buildings away. How do you plan on entering? Quill looked at Izuku. I can create a platform for us and we can just break a window and climb in. That works. Quill nodded as he made his thin red quills stand up all over his hands. Can you make certain sections of the quills stand up on their own? Izuku asked. Yep. Every hair on my body can become like my quills, extremely sharp and strong as steel. Quill spoke about his quirk with enthusiasm, clearly proud of his quirk. How does your telekinesis and erasing thing work? It's telekinetic energy, not telekinesis. Izuku corrected him. I can picture myself making the energy do things like my platforms. The erasing is like I can feel quirks around me and I can picture myself holding it back from working. Looking at them makes it take less energy, but I don't need to be looking at someone if they are close enough. Izuku created another platform for both of them to walk across onto the final building top. Anyone who relies on their quirk too much is going to have problems with you, Quill stated. As long as they don't rely too much on quirks, people shouldn't suffer too bad. Izuku stopped at the edge, blocking Quill before he walked off the edge expecting a platform. Give me 1 second. I don't want even a slight headache from my telekinetic energy. Quill nodded but made all of his hair stiffen on his arms, jumping at the central building and crashing into the side, his quills embedded into the side. I'll make an entrance. Quill released one of his arms, before smashing it into the window next to him, shattering it entirely with his strength. Shuffling over, he got into the opening and got rid of the glass, before he began to break it more from the inside, making something Izuku could easily duck to get into. I'm going up once you're ready. Izuku nodded, finding it odd how they were just at each other's throats, more just Quill, and now cooperating like a good team. Izuku felt ready and created a thinner platform to walk into the hole Quill made. Entering, he saw they had started in an office space floor, most likely what was an actual office of probably a manager. Quill had moved towards the stairs, actually using the drinking fountain that surprisingly had water. UA really overdoes making a fake city. I feel like this place is just missing people, Quill remarked. Izuku nodded. Makes us be prepared for our real environment. An explosion rocked the building. Wanna guess that it is one of the other teams? Quill had his real hair stand on edge, ready for a fight. Izuku used his senses to try and figure out where the team was. Found them. Actually, 3 of the 4 final people besides us are fighting. Quill was about to head down the stairs. Might as well join. Izuku stopped him. Wait, don't just. You find the box, I fight them. Only one of us has to find the box for us both to pass, right? I have my fun and you get to pass, Quill said. Izuku looked at the redhead. Fine, try not to get eliminated. Don't disrespect me like that. Quill went down the stairs. Izuku figured he could just start searching on the top floor for the box. Heading there, the sounds of combat were definitely gone and it was quiet. The building was just a good temperature also, making Izuku think it was a perfect setting for a nap. He couldn't take one, of course, because he would probably fail, but the idea was so strong that he had to acknowledge it. The top floor was surprisingly empty compared to the other floors. One giant area and all the walls were covered in full windows. Nothing of interest really grabbed Izuku's attention. Seeing it as a bust, he decided to see it. For some reason, it was on the roof. Climbing back up the staircase, he found the door to be locked, finding it odd that this was the first locked door he had encountered. Using his telekinetic energy, Izuku blasted the lock off of the door and it swung open. A girl screamed in shock as Izuku got to the roof. Izuku saw that she had red leathery wings, which, knowing UA recommendations, wasn't the only thing she had. She also had pale skin, long black hair, blue eyes, and a cut beneath her left eye. She had on a vest with green lights. She was also trying to open the box he was looking for. "I'm tired and need a nap," Izuku said. "Can I ask you for that box by any chance?" The girl gave him a look of confusion. No, she began to fly up. Izuku sighed. "Please don't fly away. It will hurt more." The girl stopped in confusion again. Was this guy really trying to intimidate her? The guy who slept through half of the written exam and somehow got here was trying to threaten her. Who the hell do you think you are? Izuku looked below her to make sure she was still above the rooftop, not wanting to kill her when he cancelled her quirk. "I know who I am." He cancelled out her quirk, making her wings go limp and her fall on her rear on the rooftop. What the hell? She was getting more confused as she continued interacting with this guy. What was his quirk? He just blew a door wide open and made her fall from the sky without removing his hands from his pockets. "Can I have the box?" Izuku asked again. He thought there was a chance that maybe she might be too spooked by his powers and give it to him. She stood back up and got into a fighting stance. "Hell no, doesn't matter. If you can make me lose the ability to fly, I will still kick your ass." Izuku couldn't help but be reminded of Katsumi for a second. Even if Katsumi had way more charm and was definitely more attractive to Izuku, this girl was like a watered-down version of Katsumi personality-wise. Can't one person go without a need to fight? Izuku got into the stance he used without his bands. "Hey dumbass, we are all fighting for the same spot. Of course there is going to be a fight." The girl jumped at Izuku. Izuku saw holes in her form immediately and took advantage, going low and raising his foot to meet her. She grimaced, holding her. "Seriously, can I just have the box?" Izuku asked again. The girl scowled and went for another attack, pissed off that this lazy-looking kid was not taking the fight serious. Izuku started to block her attacks, trying to form a plan to get rid of her so he can get to the back behind her. He got an idea he knew he would hate. He stopped canceling her quirk, hoping she would do exactly as he planned. The girl noticed her wings had complete feeling again. Flapping them, she quickly ran to the box and grabbed it, beginning to take off from the building. Izuku ran after her and jumped over the edge of the building to grab at her shoulders. Izuku miscalculated distance, but luckily it didn't affect his plan too bad, as he ended up grabbing her bare ankle, using his telekinetic energy to stick his hand to it. "Are you crazy?" the girl yelled as Izuku dangled upwards of 30 meters in the air, his grip on her ankle being the only thing preventing him from becoming a pancake. "Sometimes I think so," Izuku responded, looking up to not see how high he was, still not comfortable with heights. He dodged a kick she tried to give him. "You call me crazy for doing this, but try to kick me off of you." "Shut up," the girl snapped. She flew closer to a rooftop, preparing her second ability to throw at Izuku to get him off of her. Izuku saw they were farther down and decided to do the rest of his plan. He quickly cancelled both of their quirks, causing them to fall to the roof below. Izuku quickly pulled himself higher in her, hitting her stomach hard to get her to let go of the box, grabbing it himself before he released his erase quirk, letting her quickly fly back through the air and prevent them from having a bad crash. Once he was sure he had the box, he quickly let go of her and fell, cancelling out both their quirks since they were close enough to the ground for no bad damage to be done. Izuku felt the wind knock out of him when he hit the roof. He managed to keep the box in his hold luckily. Getting up, Izuku began to move quickly into the building, blasting the door open as he went. He had to make sure he had distance between him and this girl before he tried to open the box. This building appeared to have 3 floors. Quickly he went to the second floor and found another open office space area. Izuku moved into a cubicle near the middle that had its entrance facing away from the stairs, sliding underneath the desk to have a good place to hide and open the box. If she came down there, Izuku could definitely fight her one-on-one, but he already had used his abilities enough to feel a little exhausted, and there was still another challenge to go, so he shouldn't waste everything here. "Yellow team has been eliminated," Hisashi announced. It was now 2 teams, blue and green. The box had a lock on it, a 4-digit combination that Izuku didn't know if he had passed a hint to it or not. It didn't matter because he can spare a little telekinetic energy to help him crack the lock. He began to rotate the pieces, feeling a soft click with his energy every time he got the correct number. He got the final number and had a smile as he opened the box, ready to end this challenge. Before he could, a wave of black energy shook the whole room with force, breaking down cubicles and exposing his hiding spot to the girl, who looked pissed. You are not going to play me for an idiot that easy, the girl shouted as she sent another wave of dark energy at Izuku, who created a dome to block the attack, his dome cracking just slightly from the hit. Was her quirk like his where he had 2 in 1? The dark energy was definitely something he should look out for. Izuku decided to rush things and erase their quirks, opening the box and putting his hand in it. I won, Izuku stated. The girl looked pissed but didn't move, waiting for Present Mike to announce the end of the challenge. He didn't. Izuku was wondering why Uncle Hisashi wasn't calling it when he remembered the man's words. Final note, once again first 2 with their hands in the box win. Quill wasn't eliminated, so he had to physically put his hand in the box. Otherwise this girl could take his spot, which was something she realized just as Izuku did. All I got to do is get that box, she said. Give it to me, you already have your spot. I want my teammate to get the other spot. Izuku shook his head before jumping out the window. Izuku used his telekinetic energy to create a slide to the ground. Quickly back on his feet he ran for the last place Quill should have been, 2 buildings away. Get back here, asshole, the girl snapped as she flew out the window with speed, chasing Izuku and catching up fast. Izuku really wished there wasn't a catch right now to the test and he could just take a nap. Izuku erased her quirk in the hope of slowing her down, but she had caught into him being able to do that and made sure to give herself a boost through the air, crashing into Izuku's back and sending them both to the ground. Izuku had dropped the box and he attempted to grab it, but the girl had gotten to it first, planting her fingers in it. Well folks, the show is over. Izuku Aizawa and Azula Amin pass, Hisashi announced. Izuku groaned as he heard cursing from a nearby pissed off redhead. Would have been easier to give me the box, Azula said as she stood up. And now you have your face in concrete. Izuku groaned again, knowing that Quill might snap at him. At the exit of their area Izuku did run into Quill again. What the just happened? Quill cursed. He wasn't pissed at Izuku, he just wanted to know how his teammate passed, but he didn't. We both had to have our hands in the box if we were both still not eliminated. I tried getting it to you but she was faster than me, Izuku explained. Quill huffed. I won my shit too. The green guy ran away after I dropped one of those yellow ones. I can always take the normal entrance exam, I guess. Izuku nodded. At least you have another shot. Quill jabbed Izuku in the, keeping his finger there. You better not up shrimp. Someone on my team better be winning the whole thing. Izuku nodded again as Quill left, wondering if he would ever meet him again. The final 12 people all stood in a line facing Principal Nezu and their proctors. You all have done tremendously, Nezu praised them. I was genuinely on the edge of my seat watching you all give it everything you had. Just like UA says. Plus Ultra, the kid Izuku recognized as an assassin, said excitedly. Nezu smiled. Indeed, some of you even stepped outside of your comfort zones to get your spots. Izuku felt like Nezu knew about his issues with heights and was gearing that at him. The final challenge is a simple one-on-one fight between both contestants from the same group. The winner will be given a final interview and then the exams are over. Izuku actually groaned at that point at the idea of another fight. Sure, he could erase the girl's quirk since she has like no actual close combat skill, but the hassle of it all was annoying. The other contestants looked at Izuku, figuring he thought he was at. Will Group 1 please follow me? Midnight asked, as a white and red-haired boy and a bald guy followed her. Group 2, Shoda sighed and watched as the loud kid in a set and a blonde followed him. Group 3 of you little rascals, Hisashi shouted and made a follow-me motion to Izuku and Azula. Izuku and Azula were now facing each other in a ring, maybe a radius of 5 meters. Hisashi clapped his hands together. Okay kiddos, you have really no limits besides not killing each other or the building. Fall outside the ring and you are out. Get to a point where I think it is a clear winner and I will call it. Okay kids, I am going to enjoy beating your ass. Azula had a wry look. That sounds generic, Izuku replied, Katsumi's sass having rubbed off on him. I'm as ready as I will ever be. Azula scowled at Izuku. Alright kids, go nuts. Hisashi stepped back from being in between them. Azula went to fly on her wings, but Izuku grounded her by erasing her quirk again. Can't you do anything else? Azula snapped at him as Izuku rushed her. Izuku didn't reply as he sidestepped her, spinning and giving a hard strike to her shoulder with his forearm. Before she could recover, Izuku swept her legs and pinned her the way he had perfected sparring with Katsumi all the time. I win, Izuku huffed, feeling a headache forming. Azula struggled to try and get out of the hold, but Izuku had her physically outmatched. She scowled as she gave up, pissed off that he of all people beat her. It was only more infuriating how quickly it was. This jeopardized her goals that required UA. Her master would not be happy. As Ashi whistled, that's match. Might be a new record. Izuku got off of Azula, putting his hands into his pockets and forming his natural posture. Azula wiped off her pants, still scowling before she left. Hisashi slapped his godson on the shoulder. You did amazingly today, Lil Zawa. An inkling of a smile formed on Izuku's face. All you got left is the closing conversation with Nezu. Hisashi began to lead Izuku to Nezu for the conversation. Nezu poured tea for himself and the boy in front of him. Truth be told, Nezu had slipped on his neutrality of students in recent years, his age softening him. When he found out probably the grumpiest teacher and tired but logical man Shota Aizawa had a son, he was surprised. Shoda never appeared to be much of a people person. That alone made him think Izuku Aizawa might be unique, but once he found out the boy had his unique quirk, as well as an overly logical output like his father, he knew the boy was definitely unique. Now he had a chance to sit down with the boy personally to see why some of his stuff were such enthusiastic fans of the boy. Izuku accepted the tea and took a drink. Not the flavor he prefers, but it was still good. At this point during the exams, I like to just conversate with you students to get a better feeling for you as a person. Understand better the next year of heroes, Nezu said. Izuku nodded. Makes sense. It can help build a connection to them, in case they suffer any of the bad things that happen in the line of hero work. It could also be a way to understand how we ourselves might be better placed as future heroes. Nezu nodded. Yes, I enjoy to see different viewpoints on quirks, what it means to be a hero to different people, and just general life. Want me to give my opinions on those things? Izuku asked. If you don't mind, I can start with quirks. I see quirks as just an extension of the person, like a muscle, a tool really. And over-reliance on quirks in society and revolving life around quirks can have negative effects. Negative effects? Nezu raised an eyebrow, curious where the boy was going. Quirks are a part of people they have when they are born. They at this point in history are as natural as breathing. Basing life around one aspect of many causes problems. Like in history where people would base choices and actions and their place in society on the color of their skin or the location of their birth. People born with not necessarily better quirks but more liked quirks will grow big heads, raising themselves on a pedestal, while people born with what could be considered not likable or undesirable quirks will end up getting agitated by that. I believe that actually has to do with current world events like the supervillain attack in America last month. Izuku took a drink of tea. Nezu liked how the boy thought. I believe there is truth to your words. In these changing times, what do you think a hero's place is? Even with changing times, heroes should still help out with everyday life. However, I personally don't believe heroes should be competing for a spot of high ranking in the hero board. They should just do what they think is right. What is your definition of what is right? To me, it is the safety of anyone, whether it is mentally, physically, or emotionally. Anyone who purposely threatens that isn't in the right and should be stopped. From telling someone to stop calling someone a hurtful, derogatory slur to full-on assault. In that moment, it is seen it should have someone stepping in at the necessary level of care. Nezu nodded, getting a better understanding of the boy. You are an interesting kid. I try not to be. Izuku responded honestly. Nezu chuckled. Same as your father. I am told I have many similarities to him. Nezu felt that was an understatement, as the kid looked like a younger Shoda with a color scheme change. You will definitely be an interesting kid to watch during your tenure here at UA. Nezu handed Izuku a paper. Congrats on being the first recommended student of this year's class. I'm first. Izuku didn't know how he was first to finish the one-on-one matches. Indeed, and a high-scoring one as well. You are one of 2 people who got a perfect score on our written test too. I was asleep for half of it, Izuku admitted. Nezu nodded. I saw. Can't wait to see what you do fully awake. If you would kindly wait in the first testing room, I will have few last words for all passers of this exam. Izuku nodded and followed Hisashi, who had been outside of the office. Congrats, Lil Zawa. Hisashi clapped Izuku's shoulder. The tests were too long, Izuku stated. Hisashi blinked at his godson. Izuku, you know you broke the record for the 3rd challenge, right? I find it hard to believe. Well, disbelieve no longer. You quickly got in and pinned her, beating the old record by 6 seconds. How long will it be till I can go home and sleep? Izuku asked as they entered the room, empty save for them. You just passed this test with the highest score. No way are we going to let you sleep instead of party. Sleeping is my partying. Izuku sat at a table and slumped over it. Majority rules, Hisashi countered. A few minutes of silence passed before Shoda and the Inasa kid entered. Inasa saw Izuku and immediately went over to him. You passed too. MMHMM. Izuku nodded while still trying to sleep, something he was desperately clinging to achieving. It appears both of our excitement has helped us be the first 2 to pass the final challenge. Inasa then blinked because he noticed his proctor and the boy he was talking to looked really similar. But he shrugged it off. I doubt I was first still, Izuku restated. You were first. Shoda raised an eyebrow. Yeah, he was. Hisashi clapped Izuku's back. His fight broke our time record with how fast he did it. Shoda had both eyebrows up. He had full faith that Izuku would pass. He was smart, calm, and had a versatile list of abilities. He, however, didn't expect Izuku to break records. You did. I just went through the same things Katsumi and me would do during our spars, Izuku explained. She relied on her quirk, and once I took that away, it was easy. Inasa raised an eyebrow. You took her quirk. Lil Zawa's quirk lets him erase quirks for a time. Makes him an expert on close combat. Hisashi bragged about his godson. Inasa nodded. You must help me reach that level too. Izuku's eyes opened. Huh, Inasa sat next to Izuku. You have so much enthusiasm just like me for this exam. Having a quirk where you can negate other people's quirks makes everything a different playing field. I would like you to show me that field. Inasa was looking at Izuku with an intense level of excitement. Izuku was about to decline it, but Shoda kicked him under the table. He knew his father would lecture him like hell if he declined it. Shoda had an equal belief in not relying on quirks, and if Izuku had the chance to help someone understand and pass it up, Shoda wouldn't be happy. I suppose I could one day. Izuku sat more upright. Inasa made a grin. Excellent, perhaps when the school year starts we might end up in the same class. Either way, I guess I can start helping you 3 weeks from now when it does. Izuku nodded. Right now, however, I need a nap. Izuku put his head back against the table and went to sleep, not caring about anything until Nezu came back. When Nezu came back after every student had spoken with him privately, he stood in front of the 6 students who had passed the recommendation exams. You all have done tremendously well, showing your skills and drive to join UA. All 6 of you have done so well, but I must also show you how well you did as they score when. Everything besides the interview have scores and ratings. Just because you were not the highest scorer of the 6 of you doesn't mean that you don't have as much potential, because it is always hidden somewhere inside. Nezu began to hand all 6 kids a piece of paper, each detailing their score of that day's events and also their rank amongst each other. Izuku was surprised to see he had first place. Realistically, he figured maybe 5th place or 4th with the record breaking. But first, Izuku felt worried, as that meant there would be more expectations of him now. I am excited to see how you all grow starting in 3 weeks. Until then, it has been a pleasure. Nezu waved. Everyone was now dismissed. Izuku saw that as his chance to leave, but got stopped because Shoda had his hand on his son's shoulder because he knew Izuku would try to. You're staying here so your godparents can smother you until we get to your party, Shoda said. Izuku's eyes went wide. Party, Shoda nodded. I told your mother you passed the 2nd, the 3rd challenge started. She has been setting it up since. Why didn't you tell me earlier that there would be a party? Izuku asked, even though he knew the answer. Your mother gave us instructions to not let you know until we all made sure you couldn't escape this, Shoda explained. Hisashi nodded. Surprise. Izuku made a sound of distress at the 3 adults who had him surrounded. Going boneless won't save you from our love, Hisashi said to the limp Izuku, who was being carried by his godfather and father. Izuku groaned. Why would you think boneless would work on us? Nimiri walked alongside the duo carrying her godson like a log. Izuku replied. He would have gotten away this time if I hadn't erased his quirk, Shoda stated. He honestly had to erase Izuku's telekinetic energy just so the boy couldn't make a dome over himself as protection. It's not so bad, Lil Zawa, Hisashi said. You passed, as the highest recommended prospect at UA. This year, hell, your score from what I see is the highest UA has ever had. I doubt that. I was lazy, Izuku responded. Nimiri used the papers for Izuku and rolled them up to tap his head. Wrong. I have notes from Nezu about you. He scored everyone during the challenges while watching you kids. He wrote down some interesting things about you. Thinks through every choice with good hesitance. Dissolves inner team conflict. Willing to disregard personal fears for victory. Very versatile skills. Despite outer showings of low enthusiasm, has a lot of willingness to take on tasks. High experience in close combat. Nimiri finished, giving Izuku a smirk. I technically caused the team conflict, Izuku argued. No, a hot-headed teammate assumed you were starting conflict, and then he started the conflict. Hisashi corrected Izuku. Stop trying to downplay your performance, Izuku, Shoda said. Nothing will stop us from all being proud of you. But the overly affectionate stuff, Izuku tried to complain. Unavoidable in this family, Shoda stated. You should know that by now. Oh, Izuku, I am so proud of you, Inko said as she gave her son a tight hug. He passed as number 1, Shoda stated as he walked past to find a seat on the couch. You did? Inko looked at her son in amazement. Oh, Izu, she hugged him harder. I like breathing. Izuku tried to get out of the hug. Izu, don't try to downplay the seriousness of this. Inko whacked her son's arm. You were handpicked for a private exam of the best kids for the best hero school. And you did better than everyone. I know, Izuku replied. So act excited about it, Inko said. I only wanted to pass. I'm happy about that. Izuku shrugged as he dropped on the couch next to his father. Shoda made a look towards Inko, trying to send a mental message that he knew one person Izuku would care about making a big deal of his placement. It was now later and Izuku was sitting on the stairs entering his apartment building with a red box, waiting for his closest friend to show up like she said she would. Hey, lazy ass, Katsumi announced her getting there, sitting down next to him. How did your exams go? I somehow placed highest of all passing students. Izuku spoke as he put the box on his lap. Katsumi blinked at first. Damn, everyone else either sucks or you actually got tough. I think I got tough. Otherwise you would be weak also since we are training partners. Izuku replied. Katsumi raised an eyebrow. You think I'm tough and pretty, Izuku thought, but wouldn't say out loud. I think that was established after you broke my nose for the 4th time. Kinda tough that your reaction was to break mine also. Katsumi smiled as she looked at the box, wondering what Izuku had. It's apparently a tradition. Izuku tapped the box before he held it towards Katsumi. Here. Katsumi took the box with a raised eyebrow. You're the one who just passed a hard-to-get-into exam. Shouldn't I be giving you a gift? I just thought that the tough girl might like another edge, even if she doesn't need it. Izuku replied. Katsumi opened the box and had a small gasp. Inside were a set of gloves and shoes, even though parts were missing, like the middle of the footwear and the palms for the hands. The items all had brand new metal covering them and everything else was a shade of crimson red. Wah, I figured you could use shoes you didn't need to take off every time you wanted to have explosive kicks. Izuku explained with a small shade of pink covering his face. They have protection around the balls of your feet and the heel so you can walk normally, but leave the middle of your feet on the bottom uncovered so you can still make explosions. Katsumi ran her fingers over the gift. The fingerless gloves with metal on the back and knuckles were also insanely nice. I figured that you might like to have hard punches when the explosions don't feel right. Izuku explained. Katsumi still couldn't believe it. These were obviously expensive if just the sight of the quality was anything to go off of. It was also a day where he should be getting gifts, not her. Why? Izuku's pink face turned more towards red. I just thought you'd like them. You got me new boots so I got you some. Katsumi felt like she should be angry with him. This was not a fair trade. She got him steel-lined boots just because he was too lazy to replace his old pair of shoes. He got her obviously not cheap boots made specifically for her and gloves to go along with them. As mad as she wanted to be, she wasn't. Instead, she was flustered and turning as red as the gear. Why red? It went with your eyes, Izuku admitted, his face turning redder than it ever had. Luckily, they both didn't notice the blush the other one had as they were both trying to avoid looking at each other. Katsumi began to think about how any time the two would talk face to face and he actually looked at her, it was always her eyes. Did he like her crimson eyes almost as much as she liked his emerald ones? Thanks. Katsumi squeaked. Trying to fix herself, she cleared her throat and tried to play everything off by lightly punching Izuku's arm. You better believe I am returning the favor. Izuku wanted to say she already has, being someone who had motivated himself farther than he would have pushed himself. However, those words were glued to the bottom of his throat. You already got me boots. Katsumi punched him slightly harder. You know that those were replacements for your old shoes. Izuku rubbed his arm. You got me shoes, so I got you shoes. Katsumi made a scowl. He knew exactly what he did and he tried to play it off. That's not your annoying. She hit his arm again before she stormed off with the gifts in hand. Izuku rubbed his arm, wondering what exactly went wrong. Katsumi slammed the door to her apartment behind her. Don't slam the door, Mitsuki snapped. Katsumi didn't respond, instead going to her room in quiet anger. Oh boy, Mitsuki said to herself as she stood up and went to her daughter's room. Every time that girl would be quiet entering, something was always wrong. And 9 times out of 10 it was something to do with the boy she wouldn't admit she was crushing on to the highest degree. Entering the room, she saw her daughter gently placing a new pair of shoes and gloves on her desk. What's got you down? Katsumi looked at her mom. Why can't I be normal? Mitsuki gained a look of confusion for a second. What even is normal? Why can't I take a simple gift and just accept it? Katsumi shouted. Why did I have to be rude in return? Mitsuki raised her eyebrows, not expecting Katsumi to be mad at herself, especially mad enough to call herself a. You are not a sweetie. He gave me a really nice and considerate gift and I yelled at him and hit him. Mitsuki wanted to smirk since she did things like that with Masaru back in their youth. However, she couldn't smirk because she should comfort her daughter. You are not a. You just don't know how to handle feelings. I do not have feelings for that lazy, arrogant, cute and strong dumbass, Katsumi shouted. I'm sure he likes you too. Mitsuki decided to not call out her daughter for calling Izuku cute. She was also very confident that the boy liked her daughter. Why would he like her? Katsumi asked quietly, sitting against her wall in the floor. Well, for one, he doesn't like a. Mitsuki slid down next to her daughter. He likes a little twit who has a thing for breaking his nose. Katsumi looked at the gloves on her desk, getting a good idea how to apologize to Izuku so he wouldn't be mad at her. A week later, Izuku stood outside of the entrance exam building again. Not for himself, but he knew Katsumi would be there and he wanted to speak to her for the first time in a week. She had been avoiding him and he didn't know why. Anytime he would try to interact with her, she would get flustered and quietly leave, something she was not known for. Izuku guessed he could catch her before her exams and at least wish her luck, even if he thought she would already conquer the exams. People had already walked past him and he knew Katsumi hadn't yet. His sensory abilities seemed to always pick her out easier than anyone. Her quirk just feeling natural for his abilities to find. What the are you doing here? Izuku heard the voice of Quill approach him. I thought I told you to pass. I did, Izuku replied to the redhead. I am here to wish a friend luck. Quill narrowed his eyes slightly, but relaxing his stance. All right, I will be seeing you after I pass these exams. The redhead left Izuku to go inside. Izuku wondered if he actually would see the redhead again. The chances were good. Hopefully the guy would mellow out slightly before that. Izuku felt the normal warm feeling he has when Katsumi's quirk was within his range, and he turned slightly to face her, and she was looking at him. Hey, Katsumi said as she got close. She had on the gloves and boots Izuku got her. Hi, Izuku said back. I came to wish you good luck. Not that you need it, but I figured you might still like the idea of someone rooting for you to kick robot ass. Izuku managed to not blush at seeing her eyes looking at him, his favorite feature of hers when they didn't look angry. Katsumi got nervous when she was next to Izuku. Why are you here? Can't I wish someone good luck before they place first in their exams? Izuku asked, gaining a little smile as he said it. Katsumi felt her nervousness stop rising at Izuku's smile. How are you so sure I'm placing first? You said it yourself, you're tough. I still have the rejects from your exam. The ones I ran into sucked. What happened to all your swagger? Izuku didn't know what happened to her normal boastful self. Katsumi lightly pushed Izuku. Don't worry about it. Just wait to hear me place first here. I might sleep through it. Izuku replied. I'll kick your ass if I tell you I made number 1 and you sleep through it. Katsumi gave Izuku a look. So I might be getting my ass beat. When I get my letter letting me know I passed, I am shoving it down your face and making you read it to me so I know you are awake. Bold of you to assume I can't read and sleep at the same time. You can't. I have telekinetic energy. I have abilities I am not even aware of. I doubt reading while asleep is one. Only one way to find out. Izuku shrugged. Go kick some ass. Katsumi smiled before poking Izuku's shoulder. I always kick ass. She began to head inside for her own exam, ready to take a first-place position next to Izuku. Izuku had a smile as he watched her leave, glad that there wasn't any weird tension between them. He kicked a pebble before walking home, blue eyes glaring at Izuku with hate as he did. Katsumi sat her seat in the first testing site extremely anxious. It was a written portion and she knew she had it in the bag. The only person she knew that was smarter than her was Izuku, and he actually tutored her once when she asked, even if she didn't need it. She wanted to break in Izuku's gifts and break in some robots as well. Uncle Hazashi had already explained the rules that Izuku gave her before, so she didn't listen. Having finished the written test 2/3 of the way through the time limit, she was sitting there waiting for the end of it. When it came, she had to listen again while Hazashi reiterated the rules just so everyone else could memorize them. A kid interrupted because he thought the staff made an error listing a 4th robot, which Katsumi figured was the thing Izuku didn't tell her. Now she was on a bus, heading to test site 4 as they called it, a fake city. Alright kids, I believe this is your stop. Hazashi stopped the bus and let the kids off. Wait at the starting line until I give the Ayake. Katsumi huffed that she would have to wait even longer, feeling her special gloves and boots get heavier with the anticipation. As much as she knew could just power through every robot in sight to pass, she also knew Izuku had mentioned hero points and did so to get her to not always focus on the fight itself. Katsumi was bouncing on her feet in place waiting for the damn thing to start. Alright listeners, everybody go nuts. Hazashi finally started the trial. Katsumi shot into the air, using explosions in both her feet to launch high over every other test taker and towards the robots. She didn't bother keeping count or even checking which type of point robot she was destroying as she did it, too busy checking how her gloves and boots were holding up. Whatever quality materials Izuku had made be used for the gear was amazing. She barely felt any sort of backlash from her explosions that they normally gave. She could unleash more explosive attacks with less recoil, and it was amazing. She had half a mind to give Izuku a big hug when this was over. After what she could assume was her 40th destroyed robot, she stopped to take a breath. She had destroyed multiple robots of the 3 main robot types, but she wasn't about to start counting when she knows that the staff of UA is watching everyone and counting for themselves. Wiping her brow, she guessed she could start helping people. She had probably already secured a good score anyways. She decided to go find someone to help, and maybe break more robots in the way. Jumping over a pile of broken cars, she watched as a girl with long black hair and leathery red wings angrily punching a robot with black energy. Want help? Katsumi asked as she bounced to a stop close to the girl. Off, I don't need help, the girl snapped at Katsumi. Katsumi blinked at the girl. Well, excuse the hell out of me. I just wanted to see if you wanted help. The girl glared at Katsumi. I don't need help from little Pris. A tick mark formed on Katsumi's forehead. I'm trying to be helpful, you're the only. The girls both shot each other dirty looks. Katsumi decided to not be her normal aggressiveness and left, jumping back over the cars and finding other less white people to help. Katsumi watched as the girl straight up crushed a robot in her bare hands that she made grow big enough to hold the robot. I was about to ask if you wanted help, but it seems like you got this, Katsumi remarked. The orange-haired girl looked at Katsumi and smiled. Thanks. For a second they almost got me. I can join you if you like. Katsumi pondered it. She didn't know if the orange-haired girl could keep up. However, she was trying to be nicer for the sake of hero points. I guess. I'm just seeing if anyone wants help getting their own points. The orange-haired girl nodded and held out her hand, now regular-sized, to Katsumi. I'm Izuku Kendo. Katsumi shook the hand. Katsumi Bakugo. Now let's go be helpful. Now instantly blowing stuff up wasn't something Katsumi enjoyed. However, getting thanks for helping out when people were getting overwhelmed was nice. Izuku was also a nice partner as she really could whoop ass, using old-fashioned martial arts with her hands that could enlarge to hurl robots into walls or just smacking robots with debris or parts of the environment. If this Izuku girl ended up passing and being in the same class as Katsumi, she was definitely making her part of her circle she was planning on making. A circle of 5 or 6 of the best at UA. That year, definitely something she was looking forward to. Is this thing almost over? Katsumi huffed, feeling like it has already been 10 minutes. I think there are 2 minutes left. Izuku replied as she got closer, having just thrown a car at a robot. Well, these robots suck. The last 2 minutes will be easy. Katsumi kicked a rock. As if to make the last 2 minutes worse, the ground shook and a large robot, bigger than some of the buildings even, could be seen. Oh hell yeah! Katsumi punched her fists together. You want to fight that thing? Izuku looked at Katsumi like she was insane. Oh hell yeah, finally a challenge! Katsumi blasted into the air towards the building-sized robot. Izuku figured it would be somewhat wise to go after and make sure Katsumi wouldn't get herself killed. Katsumi decided to test how much damage the metal boots could do, propelling herself through the air at the one big eye in the middle of the smaller eyes the robot had, using her explosions to make her start spinning at a blinding speed before twisting herself into a powerful axe kick, slamming the metal-covered heel into the robot's eye and shattering it. Die! Katsumi yelled as she blasted off again and launched herself at another eye, shattering it with a punch. The gloves and boots handled the attacks well. She figured she might as well go inside the opening behind the first broken eye and blast the damn thing's head apart from the inside. Landing in a reasonable spot to stand, she watched as the robot seemingly ignored her on its face, opting to destroy buildings and cause mayhem, which she would stop by destroying the damn thing. Using her explosions, she began to blast everything she could get her hands on, breaking probably thousands of dollars of tech at the least, and having fun doing so. After a minute of the destruction, she heard a sound of power dying, meaning she had stopped the robot. Stepping to the broken eye of an entrance, Katsumi looked down and saw that the zero-pointer had indeed stopped moving into a slumped position, and everyone around it looking at the girl in its eye in shock. Katsumi held a smirk, enjoying being the spotlight. However, she wouldn't say anything arrogant like she really felt like doing. Instead, she slid down the robot and landed on the cracked road, next to Izuku. You're insane. Izuku gave a bewildered look to Katsumi. You get used to it. The explosive girl grinned. That is time, ladies and gentlemen. Hasashi announced the time limit being over. Katsumi looked at the zero-pointer with pride, wondering how Izuku would react to her taking down the giant unbeatable robot. A certain winged girl glared in Katsumi's direction, pissed that someone else had taken the spotlight she needed to accomplish her goals. Katsumi had a dopey grin as she left the entrance exam hall, proud of what she would only guess was definitely without a doubt the highest score in the whole exam. That was amazing. Katsumi turned to see Izuku approaching her. You weren't bad yourself, Katsumi responded. I don't say this to anyone really. You can kick serious ass. Izuku grinned. Thanks, I would say you can kick ass as well, but you like to blow it up instead. I'm like that. Hopefully we end up in the same class or something. I enjoy being around people who don't suck, Katsumi stated. Now if you would excuse me, I have to pay someone back. Izuku waved bye to the blonde girl, kinda hoping to end up in the same class as the explosive girl. That way she would know one person. Katsumi finally found the person she was looking for 10 minutes later, her Aunt Nimiri. Hey darling. Nimiri smiled to her favorite pseudo-daughter. I take it you want them now. Katsumi nodded. Are they already done? They were finished this morning. Katsumi made smile. How are they? He'll love them, trust me, Nimiri said as she led Katsumi to the support department. Katsumi knocked on the door, feeling nervous about how the ensuing interaction. It wasn't the boy she wanted to see all day that opened the door, it was his mother. Hi Katsumi. Inko smiled at the girl. How did your exam go? I beat the unbeatable robot, Katsumi answered as she gripped the blue box in her hands. Is Izuku here? On the fire escape. Inko let Katsumi into the apartment, letting her go find the boy. Katsumi did find him on the fire escape, lying on a beanbag chair he would bring out there occasionally, with his eyes shut and sleep with a curled-up Marlowe in his lap. Katsumi hid her smile at seeing how content Izuku was and sat down next to the sleeping boy. Hey Izuku. She nudged his leg. Izuku made a groaning sound waking up, raising his head to look at her. Sitting more up, he spoke. How did the exam go? I broke that big-ass robot. Figured you'd fight it. Izuku chuckled. Did you break into it and blow up its main generator? Katsumi shook her head. Broke into its head through the eye and broke everything I could. Your boots were amazing at shattering that thing. Izuku rubbed his eyes to get the sleep out of them. Your boots. Yeah, well, I got you something. Katsumi held the box towards him. Izuku made a motion to Marlowe to get off of his lap. The cat complied, jumping back into their apartment through the window. He took the box, knowing that she was probably trying to get even with him over his gifts to her. Opening the box, he saw gauntlets, green material with steel covering the back and the forearms. The parts for the forearm were thicker and looked detachable. What Izuku held, one looking confused. They launch chains, Katsumi said. The energy you used to just throw the wraps previously could be better used, so I made these. The forearm pieces have the chains in them and can retract and shoot out the chains at the press of these buttons. Katsumi showed him. The chains have a spherical end piece that you can use as a melee weapon that you can shoot or still use your telekinetic energy to stick them to things. I actually made the spheres have a lining coat you can use to put something easier to sense. The gloves are reinforced with metal like mine, so maybe next time you break my nose I might feel it. Izuku loved the gauntlets. They would complement his style so well and make his close quarters combat even stronger. He felt that gloves and forearm pieces that boosted his combat capabilities tipped the scales of this gift-giving situation to her side. So do you like them? Katsumi asked nervously. I like them. Izuku nodded with a smile that made Katsumi feel flustered. They were very thoughtful. Katsumi smiled as well, making Izuku feel nervous because her smile when she wasn't mad was a weakness of his. Now we're even, Katsumi stated, even though she believed she was ahead in whatever they were doing. Izuku was already making plans in how to not just even, but get ahead as well. After a whole week of training to distract her from waiting for the test results to come in by training relentlessly with Izuku, who had taken quick enough to his new tools as well as Katsumi herself had, the letter finally came in. She hadn't hesitated to snatch it from her mother's hand and run to Izuku's apartment, wanting to share the news with Izuku first, or have him read it to her because she knew she would be too excited to read it herself. Mitsuki didn't bother stopping her daughter, knowing exactly where she was going and that she would find out the test results later. Katsumi pounded on the apartment door fast, really excited about the letter. Izuku opened the door looking confused about the noise. Oh, Katsumi, that's too loud. Don't care, Katsumi proclaimed as she walked in past Izuku, putting the letter in his hands. Sitting down at the couch as she spoke again. You are going to read that to me because I am too nervous to do it myself. Izuku wanted to argue, but the look Katsumi had made him sigh and open the letter. It's a recording. He held the tape up. Plug it in then, Katsumi said. Izuku grumbled but put the tape in the player on his TV. The UA logo showed before it cut to a person, and not just any person. It was All Might, the powerhouse of pure muscle and tall blonde hair, the #1 hero in Japan. I am here as a recording, All Might said. I am here to tell you, young Bakugo, that not only have you aced a written exam, only 5 people in between the regular and recommended exams scoring higher than you, but you have also scored tremendously on the practical exams. You accumulated 104 villain points, the second highest score anyone has ever made in UA's history, second only to my grand total of 112. However, we didn't just grade your ability to destroy robots. We watched also for acts of kindness, teamwork, and willingness to put others above yourself. That is all tallied in the hero points category, of which you scored 40 points, making you have the grand total of 144 points. Congratulations, you have broken the record for our exams, showing how strong of a young lady you are and cementing your place here at UA. All Might paused. Katsumi didn't even listen to the rest of the video, jumping up and squealing in excitement. She had broken the record. She had actual doubts she would reach all because of Izuku's advice and the gear he gave her. Congrats. Izuku smiled as he watched Katsumi jump up in happiness. His praise got her attention. She turned to him and hugged him tightly. Thank you. Izuku blushed really hard. Not used to physical contact from anyone, especially her when normally they sparred and broke each other's noses. He didn't know why she was thanking him, but he didn't want to ruin her moment. You're welcome. Katsumi didn't let go of the hug for a minute, feeling happy there. Izuku also didn't have complaints. Shoda sighed as he, Nezu, and Sekijiro-kan, better known as Vlad King, all sat around a table. This year I really want us to build 2 hero classes that will communicate well within themselves. So instead of throwing them all together randomly, I want to have us all discuss who you both take. Sekijiro nodded. I am assuming we will use their personalities from the files and their interactions from the exams to select where they go. Nezu nodded as well. Indeed, I have seen several kids all from both exams have good interactions with each other. I have written down sets of students I believe would fit well together. Either one of you can take any set of the small groups of kids. Shoda didn't even look at any files before staking a claim. I request any sets that have my son and one Katsumi Bakugo. Sekijiro raised an eyebrow. Isn't it biased to want your son in your class? Izuku won't want special treatment, not what I give any. He already follows standards I set and will help other students get to those standards just by representing them. I want to emphasize being strong without your quirk just as well as with your quirk. His erasing power will help that, Shoda explained. And Katsumi Bakugo Nezu asked. He had heard gossip between Midnight and Hisashi about the explosive girl. She can keep Izuku from getting lazy, Shoda reasoned. Nezu nodded. I see this as fine, do you can? Sekijiro nodded. Fine reasons, who goes with them? Nezu read his paper. Sayarashi and this Quill kid both have interactions with young Aizawa. While Quill started off hostile and also shown to not like people, Izuku somehow an exception to a point. Shoda nodded. And Bakugo's. Just Itsuka Kendo. Their teamwork was commendable, Nezu noted. However, with Kendo I have also added Miss Ibara Shizaki. Reasoning. Sekijiro looked at Shizaki's file. Before the exams they had a good conversation. Shizaki does hold a superiority complex from her religious beliefs, and I think being with humble Kendo might help her also get humble, as well as Katsumi herself. I am fine with it. Can I request others that have issues with their quirks, over-relying on them or thinking quirks are also the only component necessary in this line of work? Shoda asked. Nezu nodded before he looked at a few more papers. How about these three? He held up papers that read Shoto Todoroki, Momo Yaoyorozu and Azula Ame. I recognize this girl. Shoda looked at Azula's file. If I remember, she doesn't exactly like my son. So that is a no to her, Sekijiro asked. No, I am taking her, Shoda said. Izuku exposed her lack of skill past her quirk. Hopefully he can help her realize she needs more than the quirk. And Katsumi's temper is worse than hers, so I am not worried. What's the story with these two? Shoda indicated to the other two. Nezu pointed to Momo first. Quirk is creation, can create anything she knows the molecular layout of. However, she suffers some hesitation problems and lack of confidence. Perhaps enthusiasm from Yurashi and Kendo's overall caring side could help her. Todoroki only uses his ice half of his quirk, which also has a fire half. The file is sketchy around his past, but I believe that realizing someone like Izuku who has a similar style of quirk layout is only as strong as his whole being, not just his parts. I can work with that. Shoda nodded. Sekijiro looked over other files. I request this Takage girl. She is hard and I would like that. Nezu nodded. I have her in a set with Juzo Honuki, the other recommended student, as well Pony Tsunotori and Kinoko Komori. Apparently Takage and Tsunotori know each other from a chance meeting outside of the exams. Sekijiro looked at the papers of the other three and nodded. Acceptable. Nezu moved a few files towards Sekijiro. Would you be interested in these students? Sekijiro looked at the students. Manga Fukudashi, Senkaibara, Kajiri Bondo, Nyaranjiki Shoda and Huryu Rin. To be honest, they were kinda just there. However, together I believe they would have synergy, Nezu said. Shoda looked at Ishihai Kiwaro. He has an intriguing quirk. Yes. If you would like him, he has been set with Fumikage Takoyami, Nezu stated. Their personalities match up with Izuku's, which might do him good because everyone else seems to be hyperactive, antagonistic if him or anything in between. I would like them, Shoda nodded. I believe you might enjoy the group of Hantasiro, Eijiro Kirishima, Toru Hagakure and Mina Ashido. They are a bit more excitable than most, but they have for the most part a strong sense of their quirks. Nezu passed the files to Shoda. Shoda read their files, just briefly enough to get a grasp of them. I can work with them. Excellent. Nezu checked them off. Shoda looked at 5 more papers. If I may, these 5 might fit in well with my class. May I take them and finalize my class? Nezu looked at the 5 indicated. Kyoka Jiro, Achako Uraraka, Tenya Ida, Tsuyu Asui and Mashurawa Jiro. All 5 seem to be normal and calmer than the others. A good source of calming and mellowing out the others. Are you okay with this, Sekijiro? Sekijiro took a second, reading over the rest of the files. Everyone else will fit well within my class. I am fine with this. Nezu wrote down the rest of the names. Well, we have a hero course classes. Shoda smiled, glad that they were done and he can go sleep. Izuku held his bag while being uncomfortable, hugged by his mother. Mom, I will still come home on the weekends. Izuku tried to weakly get out of the hug. I don't care, Inko replied. I still won't see my baby. You're growing up too fast. Mom, if I am late, Katsumi is going to yell at me more than usual, Izuku said. Inko let go of her son. Fine, you better call me after you both get settled in. I promise. Can I go now? Izuku pleaded. He just wanted to find his new room at the dorms in UA and sleep. You can go. Inko ed him on the forehead. Try to make friends instead of sleeping. Izuku groaned as he closed the door behind him. Katsumi was waiting outside of his building, holding her bag as well. It's about time, lazy ass. HNNNN. Izuku replied as he scratched Marlowe's neck. UA, allowed pets, so Izuku requested for Marlowe to join him. Marlowe calmly resting on top of Izuku's backpack. Katsumi reached out a hand to pet the orange cat. So did your dad tell you any of our classmates? No, he didn't even want to tell us we got the same class as each other. Izuku remembered the other day when Katsumi had been over and bugging Shoda to find out if the two kids were going to be in the same class. Shoda did tell them they were in class 1A together, but nothing else. As long as it's not some annoying-ass people, I will be fine. Katsumi stated, I only know one other person I respect and I hope she is there. The one you met at the exams, Izuku asked. Yes, she can actually fight well. Probably might beat your ass without quirks or tools. Katsumi said, I can beat you half of the time like that, so she could probably beat you too. Izuku responded, it wouldn't be bad if it was her. That's an honorable defeat. Katsumi stated, what about your exams? Did you see anyone of interest? Izuku thought if the three people he actually bothered to remember the names, Inasa Urashi, Quill, and that Azula Amane girl. Out of all of them, Inasa was the least hostile for sure. But Quill had at least some respect for Izuku, he guessed. Probably this guy named Urashi. No idea what his quirk does, but if my dad was making the classes and I know Urashi passed, I can guarantee he is there. What's he like? Loud and happy. So the opposite of us somewhat. Izuku yawned. How is that the opposite of us? Katsumi asked. I'm quiet and you're angry. I'm not always angry, Katsumi shouted. No, you're a gumdrop. Izuku responded. Damn right I'm a gumdrop. Katsumi nodded. Let's go meet our new classmates. They were in for an interesting first day at the dorms of 1A. Izuku looked at Katsumi, knowing exactly what she was about to say. They had gotten to the dorms of their building, but they both were standing in front of the doors. Well, Katsumi looked at him expectantly. Well, what? Izuku replied, looking at me and saying well doesn't tell me anything. Katsumi looked annoyed. So you aren't going to be a gentleman and open the door for a lady? Izuku kept his tired look with the half-opened eyes. Are you telling me you are too weak to open it yourself? Katsumi narrowed her eyes. Did you just call me weak? No, I merely suggested that only weak people can't open a door, Izuku stated. Truth be, he would have opened the door if Katsumi hadn't started waiting for him to do it when she was the one walking slightly faster. Katsumi poked his. I know what you are doing, Aizawa. You can't trick me that easily. I tried. Izuku yawned and opened the door for her. Can't fault me for that. I can fault you for being a lazy ass and not succeeding at being persuasive. Katsumi stuck her tongue out at Izuku as she walked into the building. Izuku reached one hand up to let Marlowe on his backpack as he followed Katsumi into the commons of their dorms. The first thing they heard was a loud argument. You cost me my shot at a recommendation. Izuku heard the voice of Quill of all people. Ha! Izuku groaned at the sound of Azula of all people scoffing. You kidding me? You would have gotten knocked out by that ass quicker than me. Izuku's groan made those two and the four other people in the commons look at him. Azula was the first to react. Oh, of course you are in my class. Izuku didn't look happy either. He didn't say anything because he knew it would make things louder. Katsumi, however, got pissed for Izuku and was loud about it. Hey, you're in his class, he put ranks you. How does his stupid ass outrank me? Azula asked, pissed off. I did beat you in a match, Izuku pointed out. That makes you worse than him. Quill stated, stay out of this. Azula glared at him. Quill didn't even look slightly phased. You started it anyways. A new person entered the dorms. My goodness, why is everyone already at each other's throats? A well-built teen with blue hair and glasses asked. This is not appropriate behavior. Oh, stick it up your ass with that stick you have there. Azula responded to the new arrival. Katsumi looked at Izuku next to her. Looks like we found the class. Azula heard that. Excuse me, did you just call me a? Izuku grabbed Marco off of his bag to let him on the ground and grabbed something he knew he would need and took a step back. This should be fun. Katsumi put a finger to her chin. If I recall it, I do believe I just did. Azula glared at the blonde. Where do you get off calling me a? Well, I don't get off on that, and I think I said it because you're a ing. Katsumi replied to Azula with a glare. I don't want to hear shit from a prissy bye. Azula got cut off when Katsumi pushed her. Azula tired to throw a punch, and so was Katsumi when they both got wrapped up in chains, and Azula felt the familiar lack of feeling in her wings. Everyone looked at Izuku, who had put on his gauntlets and was using his erasing power in Katsumi and Azula, while using his chains to keep them in place. No fighting, Izuku said in a flat tone that the intensity of was increased by the lime-green glow of his eyes and his hair floating. Let me go. Azula glared at Izuku. Stop being so aggressive, Izuku said as he feel his chains back in, releasing the two. We have been here all of less than 5 minutes and you are already starting conflict. Act like that and I know you will end up getting expelled. Azula didn't cause any more issues at that point. She only glared at Izuku before going off to find her own room. The blue-haired teen went up to Izuku while he was taking off his gauntlets. That was an excellent way to defuse a situation. Thanks, I guess, Izuku said as he finished putting his bag back on his back, Marlowe jumping back onto it. I am Tenya Ida. Tenya held out a hand to Izuku. Izuku Aizawa, Izuku said as he shook the hand. Katsumi went up to Izuku. Why did you chain me also? Because you don't quit when a fight starts. Izuku looked at her. And I don't feel like being here by myself. Quill was next to say something. So we got the same class. Izuku nodded. So it seems. Good. One person I actually respect. Quill nodded himself. I'm assuming you're that guy named Quill, Katsumi asked. Yep, Quill nodded. What's your last name, Tenya asked. Quill got an irritated look. I don't have one. Izuku walked away from the group. That way he can go find his room and set his stuff down. Tenya looked at Katsumi. Does Aizawa always walk away without a word? Katsumi nodded. He doesn't do anything much, kind of lazy. You're lucky he gave you his name, honestly. For someone lazy, he knows how to fight well. Quill stated. Katsumi smirked. That's because I'm his sparring partner. I could probably kick your ass. Quill stated, not with any spite to Katsumi. Well then later we spar so I can kick your ass, Katsumi said as she left to go find her room. May I ask why you don't have a last name? Tenya asked with curiosity to Quill. Quill didn't hesitate to answer. No. He then left to go to the kitchen. He wasn't digging up that issue. Katsumi opened the door when she heard a knock. Who is being annoying? Katsumi asked before she saw the person and got happy. It was Itsuka Kendo, the girl she met from the exams. Hi Bakugo. I saw you got this class from the room sheet. Katsumi grinned. Hell yeah, I got a boss in my class. She held up her hand for a high five that Itsuka returned. Itsuka laughed lightly at the compliment. It's nice we got the same class. Yeah, but we also have the same class as this one ass I met from our exams. Chiaze. I'm assuming it's the altercation I heard about when I got here, Itsuka asked. Probably. Katsumi shrugged. Anyways, that guy Ada said it would be wise if everyone all met in the commons so we can all get to know each other better. And I think something about rules so to not fight. Katsumi made a face. Who made him leader of the class? No one else really tried to take control. Itsuka said. I got the new record of the exams so I should be in control. Katsumi mumbled as she closed her door behind her. Katsumi and Itsuka got to the bottom of the stairs to see 16 of the students at the table, only one other person missing, and it was Izuku. Aizawa wasn't at the table as she was a couple of meters away at the kitchen counter. Hello, I'm Inasa Yurashi. Inasa waved to the newcomers. Izuku told me about you, Katsumi said as she sat down. Where is he? No one got him apparently, a pink girl said. Katsumi got up. I'll get him. She knew she would actually have to get him as he was probably taking a nap. Izuku didn't open his door and Katsumi decided to stop knocking. She was about to kick it down but remembered she could probably just open it since the doors didn't have locks on them for some reason. Opening the door, she saw his bag half emptied on his bed and Izuku himself sleeping on his, with Marlowe making himself comfortable on Izuku's back. Instead of being a nice person, Katsumi grinned as she walked up to Izuku and started flicking his nose till he woke up. Lazy ass, get up. Katsumi didn't speak quietly. Izuku groaned and his eyes opened. What? Class meeting. Get thee up. Katsumi flicked him one last time. She shooed Marlowe off of Izuku so he could get up. Izuku sat up. Why is there a class meeting? Glasses kid thinks we should all get to know each other so we can bond or some shit. And I'm coming. Izuku groaned and got up. Katsumi followed Izuku out, staying behind him so he couldn't just close his door and hide in his room because she knew he would take that opportunity if it presented itself. Tenya spoke as Katsumi and Izuku sat at the table. Okay, we are all here now. I think it would be good if we all got to know each other, Tenya stated. Can I say something? Katsumi was surprisingly respectful in that moment. Who the made you leader? The respectfulness was sadly gone. To be fair, no one was saying anything and I just offered the idea. Tenya decided to brush past her rude language. Who do you think should be in charge? Aizawa asked with a wry tone and look. Definitely not you, Katsumi said. It should be someone responsible anyways, and I offer Izuku. No, Izuku shot that down quick, his head against the table as he was trying to sleep again. You are the highest recommended student, lazy ass. You qualify the most, Katsumi stated. You broke a record that was set by All Might. You qualify more, Izuku responded. You broke a record made by All Might, a red-headed guy asked. That's manly. I am not manly. Katsumi wasn't a picture-perfect feminine icon, but she was not going to be called manly. She turned back to Izuku. I only did that because of your advice, stupid. Take the job because you know you qualify for it. Izuku made a groaning sound. Who says we even need a class leader? Every class gets one eventually, Izuku pointed out. We don't even know each other, so it wouldn't be wise to just throw the title at anyone yet, Izuku stated. Just wait a few days so we can better know who is most qualified. He knew that once everyone saw his laziness, he wouldn't have to worry about being in charge. That's smart. A girl with black hair and a ponytail agreed. So why don't we just go around the table and introduce ourselves and say some things about ourselves? The pink girl asked. Go first then, Pinky, Katsumi said. The pink girl didn't even seem fazed by the name. I'm Mina Ashido. If we are gonna talk about quirks, mine is that I can make acid from my body and it can be dangerous or just about water. It's fun to slide around on and I love dancing. Mina finished. The person in the seat next to Mina, who was seemingly an invisible girl if the shape of her floating clothes were anything to go by, spoke next. Antoru Hagakure. My quirk is invisibility that I can't really turn off in. Katsumi cut her off with a hand motion. You can't turn off your invisibility. Nope, I don't know what I actually look like, Toru said. Katsumi elbowed Izuku lightly to get his attention. Hey, turn off her quirk. Izuku picked his head up off of the table. Does she even want that? Izuku asked as he looked over at the invisible girl. He could feel her quirk, so he could easily do it. You can erase quirks. A girl with long earlobes that had aux cords on them asked. As long as I think of doing it to someone, Izuku answered. Do it please. Toru sounded excited. I always wanted to see what I look like. Izuku sighed. Okay. He erased her quirk and she became visible to everyone after a second. She had short, wavy hair that was light green, big round eyes or a similar color, and bushy eyelashes. No one really said anything for a second before a black-haired boy with odd elbows spoke. Wow, you're hot. Toru wasn't used to actually feeling people look at her and not through her, her face turning insanely red. I am the black-haired girl who had previously agreed with Izuku. Somehow pulled a small mirror from her arm and passed it to Toru. Toru looked in the mirror and gasped. Wow, I guess I am. Katsumi felt a little jealous that this girl who was invisible was so attractive. Some of the guys, primarily that elbows kid, looked like idiots looking at her. Katsumi looked at Izuku to see his opinion on the girl and was somewhat surprised to see he instead had a bored expression, like he didn't care. Izuku really didn't care. He already thought that no one could top Katsumi. Not that he would say that out loud, and being beautiful, so every other girl to Izuku was just a, can I let go? I can get headaches doing this. Toru looked embarrassed as she looked at Izuku across the table. Sorry, it's fine. Now I know. Thank you. Izuku stopped erasing her quirk and a shimmer of light later Toru was back to her invisible self. It's nothing. Nothing. The elbows kid looked at Izuku questioningly. Dude, you helped someone do something that they couldn't before. It's no problem then, Izuku restated as he put his head back against the table. The elbowed kid was the next to speak. I'm Hantashiro. My quirk lets me shoot tape out of these. Hanta wiggled his elbows. I can swing around on them and it is fun. I actually plan to be a hero like that spider-themed one from America when quirks first appeared. The redhead that called Katsumi manly spoke next. I am Ijiro Kirishima. My quirk makes my skin get hard, and if I push it enough I can be pretty much unbreakable. If we are mentioning heroes we want to be like, mine is the Crimson Riot. Dude's a straight badass. Next was a girl that looked like she had permanent blush. I'm Nachako Uraraka. If I press the pads on my fingers, she showed her fingertips, which were covered with pink pads of skin. I can remove their gravity until I press my hands together. I have a limit because I get queasy. My idol is number 13 and I want to be a rescue hero like her. Next was a guy with a tail resembling a lion's. I am Meshuro Ajiro. My quirk is my tail that I can control like a limb. It helps in my combat style, which is martial arts. I would like to be a martial arts master eventually. Next was Azula, who wasn't at the table still. She looked irritated at having to speak to them. I'm Azula Amane. My quirk is my wings and that I can use a type of dark energy. She didn't say anything else. Next was a girl who had long green hair. She had ties into a bow and big eyes. I'm Tsuyu Asui. My quirk is called Frog and I can do a lot of the same things as a frog. I want to be a good water type hero. Ribbit. No one knew if she said that ribbit as if to make a joke or she actually just ribbits once in a while. Next was Quill, who was currently picking at the thick red hairs on the back of his hand that he had hardened. I'm Quill. My quirk is also called Quill and I can harden any hair on my body into a sharp quill basically. Quill didn't say anything else, but he wasn't rude about it like Azula. He was also glad no one asked because he wasn't getting into his problems. Did you name yourself after your quirk or was the quirk just a coincidence? Ijiro asked. Quill shouldn't have thought too soon. I named myself after my quirk. What's your real name? Tenya asked. Quill looked mad at the question. Quill is my real name. Nothing before that matters. The person after Quill spoke because they figured Quill would like the change of topic. I'm Itsuka Kendo. My quirk lets my hands enlarge and my strength with them grows as well with their size. I am good with motorcycles and throwing cars at robots, Katsumi said as she raised a fist for Itsuka to fist bump, which she did. It was Katsumi's turn now. I'm Katsumi Bakugo. My quirk is called Explosion and I can create explosions from the nitroglycerin in my sweat. Katsumi let a small one pop on her finger. I enjoy sparring with someone who isn't useless. She elbowed Izuku to wake him up because he had fallen asleep. Izuku, looking annoyed at being woken up, picked his head up and spoke. I'm Izuku Aizawa. My quirk is called Telekinetic Eraser. I have telekinetic energy and I can erase quirks, but I can't use both halves at the same time because they cancel out. He put his head back down, but Katsumi nudged him again. Lazy ass, say something you like. Katsumi flicked him. What do you mean by both halves? Mina asked. I know it sounds like something obvious, but just curious. Both halves I gained from my parents, Izuku said. I have upgraded versions, however, and not just theirs. A certain red and white-haired boy looked at Izuku with curiosity at that. Say something you are interested in, Katsumi repeated. Sleep, Izuku mumbled as he put his head against the desk. Katsumi looked annoyed that he went back to sleep, but let him do it. The person on Izuku's other side spoke. The girl had long green hair that oddly looked like vines. I am Ibara Shizaki. My quirk is my hair that are vines. I can use them as extra arms or ropes. I spend my time reading scripture. Next to her was a boy whose skin was pitch black. His hair stood out as white. I'm Shihai Kirwaro. My quirk is called black. I can merge myself into anything that is black or shadows. I can control them as long as they already have motions of their own. I also enjoy scripture a little and I do read H.P. Lovecraft as well. The person next to Shihai gave him a look of surprise. This person had the head of a crow or raven from what it looked like. I am Fumikage Takoyami. My quirk is Dark Shadow. A shadow popped out of Fumikage. It was a creature that looked like it could buy Fumicage's shadow and it had glowing yellow eyes. I can fight side by side with my shadow. He also has a mind of his own. I do. Dark Shadow nodded. I also do enjoy H.P. Lovecraft and his literature, Fumikage said to Shihai, who looked happy at the revelation. Next was Inasa. I am Inasa Yurashi. He was really enthusiastic. My quirk is Whirlwind. I can control the winds around me with excellent finesse. I enjoy everything and people who also have passion for what they do. Because why do anything if you don't have passion guiding it? Next was the girl with purple hair and intriguing earlobes that had aux cords at the ends. She was twirling one around her fingers in nervousness at speaking. I'm Kyoka Gyro. My quirk is my ears. I can use the jacks to increase my hearing a lot, hear through things like whole buildings. I can also send my heartbeat through them as an attack. I like music and especially rock. She was looking more nervous by the end. Next was Tenya Ida. I'm Tenya Ida. My quirk is the engines in my calves that boost my speed. I want to be a hero that upholds the high standards that all heroes should hold. Next was the dual hair-colored kid that had intrigue in Izuku. Shoto Todoroki. I like soba and have control of ice, he said bluntly, lacking any emotions for the most part. Finally, it was the black-haired girl who had created a mirror earlier. I am Momoye Yurazu. My quirk is creation. Using the lipids on my body, I can create anything if I know its molecular layout and how it functions. I enjoy reading just about anything. Is that everyone? Tenya asked just to make sure. Most people nodded. Okay, that concludes. At that point, Azula went up the stairs to leave. Our introductions. Does anyone have anything else to say? I think we can take it from here, dude, Hanta said. Everyone started to filter off into smaller groups of people they had already became friends with or found interesting to become new friends. Izuku had stayed at the table, fast asleep, while Katsumi stayed close by. Katsumi was in between Itsuka and Ibara, who had become friends fast. Ibara found Katsumi's language to be vulgar but found that she was nicer to people she actually respected. Ibara gaining respect because she had placed fourth in the entrance exams. Alright girls, I got a proposition for you too, Katsumi said to Ibara and Itsuka. I want to build a team of kick-ass people and you two are definitely kick-ass. Are you inviting Aizawa? Itsuka looked at the sleeping boy near them. No, this team is separate from him. Me and him are partners, and I told him I wanted to make a team of a few people I thought were kick-ass, and I told him he better make an equal team of his own. Katsumi then nudged Izuku. Get started on that. I know you can hear me. Izuku made a noise of complaint, but he got up and went to go find Quill. Ibara took a second to think before she answered. I disagree with your language, but it would help me grow as a person, I suppose. I like the idea too. Itsuka nodded. May I ask how you and Aizawa became partners? Ibara asked. We're friends from middle school. Katsumi didn't realize Ibara meant partners as in life partners. So you two aren't dating or anything? Itsuka asked with a raised eyebrow. No, Katsumi shot out, getting flushed cheeks. We're just friends. Itsuka looked at Ibara. She has a crush. Katsumi's face got redder. No, Itsuka smirked but nodded. Okay, he seems unmotivated. Ibara commented. He has motivation. He just is lazy when he knows he doesn't have to put effort. Katsumi explained. So what do we do as a team? Ibara asked. Training partners, and if we get the chance during any events to team up, you know we will power through them. Katsumi grinned. Izuku found Quill in a patio area in the center of the dorm's building. The building built around it, so they were technically outside. Quill was sitting on top of a table and using a thick brush to straighten out his red hairs on his arm. Hey Quill, Izuku said to get his attention. Aizawa, the redhead said as he looked up. What is it? Want to join a team I have to make? Izuku asked. Why do you have to make a team? Quill asked. Katsumi wanted to make her own team of, as she called them, kick-ass people, and told me I had to make one as well. Izuku explained. Quill stood up, getting off of the table. I was the first person you asked. Izuku shrugged. First person I thought would like to join a team of kick-ass people. Quill thought for a second on his options. Alright, how many people is it though? Izuku shrugged again. I was just going to copy her amount. Quill raised his eyebrows just a bit. You are kinda lazy. Izuku shrugged. I know one other person that might join. Quill made a dirty look. It better not be Amane. Izuku shook his head. Definitely no. She hates us and you don't like her and I don't like the hassle. It's Urashi, the loud guy Quill stated as he followed Izuku into the commons so they could find Inasa. Yeah, he said he wanted me to teach him some close combat at the exams. Izuku said, so he would have the worst out of us when it came to melee skill. Quill stated, most likely. Izuku nodded as they found Inasa, who was talking to Mashiro. Urashi, I have a question. Inasa looked at Izuku, remembering his deal from the exams. Hello Aizawa, what is your question? I'm making a small team of people, for training, group work and such. Do you want to join? Izuku asked. Inasa jumped up and grabbed Izuku's shoulders. I would love to join. Mashiro raised an eyebrow. Are there open slots on this team? Quill spoke before Izuku. What's your melee capabilities like? I practice every day. I would say I'm adept at it. Mashiro answered. Good. Quill looked at Izuku. Tail should be in. Okay, I guess. Welcome to the team Ajiro. Izuku went along with it. So when do we start that training and such? Mashiro asked. I would like to learn as soon as possible. Inasa stated. Love the enthusiasm. Quill said, then looked at Izuku. I know you're the leader, but you're also lazy, so I'll take care of teaching this guy how to throw a punch. My whole stance is set around being good at close quarters. I'm fine with that for now. I'm going to talk to Katsumi now, so I will join you guys outside later. Izuku said as he walked away to find Katsumi. Katsumi was found at the table talking to Ibara and Itsuka still. I made a team. Izuku yawned as he walked up to the girls. Katsumi turned to look at him. Marlo and your bed don't count. Who's Marlo? Ibara asked. My cat. Izuku answered. And no, I actually have a team of 3 other people in this class. Katsumi raised her eyebrow. Oh, didn't expect you to find anyone last. That Urashi guy. He was the 3rd member. I asked Quill and he brought in Ajiro also. Katsumi made a frown. So the teams are unbalanced since you have one more member than us. Yep. Izuku nodded. Does it matter? Itsuka asked. I thought you said we kick ass. We do, but lazy ass can't have a bigger team than me. Katsumi stated. That seems childish. Izuku said flatly. Oh well, I'm going to find a 4th kick-ass person in this class. Shoo. Katsumi nudged Izuku away. He went along with it and went back to his group. Katsumi turned to the 2 girls next to her. Alright, so who else in this class is tough? Itsuka had an idea. How about Amine? Katsumi shook her head. Not her, I hate her. However, since apparently Izuku's team is all guys, we should have an all-girls team. For symmetry, Itsuka made a smirk. You really account for Aizawa in a lot of what you do. Katsumi looked at the orange-haired girl. Stop insinuating I like him. Just noticing a detail. How about we go by quirks for how we chose them, since we don't know how they actually are in a straight fight or that yet? Itsuka offered. That's why you're my number 2. Katsumi said. I want to remove Amane from the running, obviously. Even if her 2-part quirk is good. Ibara offered up her idea. Yae Arazu's quirk would make her very versatile in all areas. Katsumi nodded. Excellent point. Shall we find and recruit her? Itsuka nodded. Based on quirks, she would be the best. Let's go find her. Katsumi got up and the 2 others got up to follow her. Katsumi knocked on the door. This should be her room, Katsumi said to the other 2. It was Momo's room as she opened the door. Hello Bakugo, was it? Momo greeted her. Yep, I got a proposition for you, Yae Arazu. Katsumi started. Is it for a team? Momo asked. Yeah, how did you already know that? Katsumi asked. I heard Aizawa speak to Urashi and Ajiro. The teams don't seem like a bad idea, and I would say yes if I didn't want to focus on my studies. Momo felt bad about it, but also wanted schoolwork to come before other activities, at least during the first few weeks. Well, if you aren't joining our team, I'm leaving. Have fun studying, nerd. Katsumi said, turning around and walking away. Itsuka looked at Momo. She isn't trying to be rude with that, just how she speaks. Momo waved it off. I kinda noticed she refers to some of us by characteristics, and I am kind of a nerd anyways. I gotta catch up to her, so see ya. Itsuka turned around to catch up to her friend, Ibara following. As the 2 up to Katsumi, the vine-haired girl spoke. It seems like we still need 1 more if you want 4. I figured the nerd would have joined to see it as extra credit type stuff, but oh well. Alright, so who is someone that'd be decent to have on the squad? Asui, Ibara answered after thinking. Of the others, she is the calmest as I have seen. She really just wanted someone who could bring more calm to the group as opposed to Katsumi's brashness. Frog girl. Katsumi thought about it. If she has frog-like abilities, she might be a good hopper. Let's ask her before trying anyone else. Katsumi, Itsuka and Ibara found Suyu out in the patio area, reading a book. Hey Asui, Katsumi said as they approached her. Suyu looked up. Hello Bakugo, Shizaki and Kendo. Ribbit, how are you? Katsumi felt like asking about the ribbit but went straight to her point. We made a team and want to know if you would like to join. Is that what Aizawa was talking to Quill about earlier? The girl asked. You heard that? Katsumi asked. How much do you know? That he was making a group because you were making one, and that it is about training and friendly competition. I accept the offer, it sounds neat. Suyu nodded. Alright, Katsumi grinned. We got the Sisterhood of Kickass. Please tell me that's not our name. Ibara looked worried. I'm calling us that, Katsumi declared. You can call us something that you are fine with saying, but I'm calling us that. What's the plan then, Izuku asked. I would say find one of the gyms and train, but I think they are closed today, Katsumi said. I heard they will start being open after Tuesday. Tsuyu said. Okay, so Wednesday we start training together every other day, Katsumi stated. Why not every day, Izuku asked. I'm going to see if Izuku still wants to train with me those times, Katsumi said, wondering where her closest friend was at that moment. So what are these for exactly, Mashiro asked as he held one of Izuku's gauntlets. They are vital for my main fighting style, Izuku answered. Upon finding out that none of the training facilities on UA's campus were open till Wednesday, the 4 guys of Izuku's group decided to just stay at the dorms. Izuku took that as try to sleep, but the others took that as get to know each other. It was surprising that Quill was being non-aggressive, but he wouldn't bring that up. What is your fighting style, Quill asked. You didn't have these at the exams. I didn't get the gauntlets till a week after those exams. They shoot out chains I can use to grapple people or use to swing things around, including myself, Izuku explained. Mashiro whistled as he rotated the gauntlet and saw where the chains would release. These are definitely good in combat. They look heavy, so without them your arm strikes must be quick. They are, Izuku pet Marlowe, who was walking around the floor just trying to get pet by them all. I am even more excited by learning melee skills from you now, Inasa grinned. Not you're learning from me, Quill said. Aizawa might be an expert in close quarters, but he is more about speed and finesse. You're a big guy like me, so power and heavy hitting is better for you. Mashiro nodded. That is generally true, but he might be able to incorporate his wins to make himself go faster. I would like to learn a style that has no enhancement from my wins, Inasa said. Meeting Aizawa has made me realize that with a quirk like his I can't always have my quirk to use. How many styles are you familiar with, Tail? Quill asked. Mashiro didn't mind the nickname. Several. I want to master as many as I can. Since Wins is the only one who doesn't have a definitive style, let's make him a unique one that has his wins in play. I can teach him the style I use without my quills as his normal style, Quill said. Are you sure you don't want to be leader of our group? Izuku asked. He would be more than willing to let Quill take over. I worked with you at the exams. You're smart. While I admit I can get tunnel vision for a fight, Quill admitted. As aggressive as I am, it would be better if someone calmer was in charge. Izuku nodded. All right, I can respect that. Aizawa, can I ask why it seems like you are always tired? The tailed teen had been wondering that for half of the time he knew the other teen that day. My quirk can make me exhausted. I like to lie down half the time to save energy, Izuku explained. Like I said, his fighting is quick and efficient, Quill said. When we encountered a team during the recommendation exam, he had a very fluid style. Quill paused for a second as he turned to Izuku. Wait, your erasing takes more physical energy from you, doesn't it? Izuku nodded. More than my telekinetic energy. It does make me feel tired a little. You must be a stamina freak then, Quill remarked. Constant workout of you stamina and energy from the quirk. That and being Katsumi's friend. Izuku agreed with Quill. That girl has spunk, Quill remarked. She is very passionate. Inasa agreed. How long have you two been dating? Mashiro asked. Izuku shook his head. We're just close friends. If Izuku was completely honest, he knew he had feelings for Katsumi. He became aware after she hugged him when she found out about her record-breaking performance. At this point, Izuku was just too nervous to actually confront them and tell her until he heard her admit to her own feelings for him. Right, Quill nodded. Anyways, Tails, how strong is your tail? Mashiro moved his tail so it wrapped in front of him. It can feel like a strong punch getting hit by a swing from it. If I didn't have my quills, it would be a bit of a hassle dealing with your extra limb, Quill stated. How do your quills work? Inasa looked at the thin red hairs that were all over Quill. Quill pointed to his hairs on his forearm. I have more hair than regular people all over my body, and I can manually make them straighten out, lengthen and harden to something like steel, and they get sharp points. Do you have to do anything to keep them in good quality? Mashiro asked. I brush them to keep them from getting tangled. If two get tangled and I try to harden them, they can break off, and it's like getting stabbed when they break. I honestly just have to take good care of my hair. And that's it. Quill let the hairs on his forearm harden, the hairs getting thicker and longer as they harden. What about you, wine boy? How exactly do your winds work? Inasa grinned at his chance to talk about his whirlwinds. I can make the air around me flow like a whirlwind and manipulate it to move objects away from me or to me. I can also make a wall of air that can smack like a brick, and if I can also move myself through the winds. So you can fly? Mashiro raised an eyebrow. I believe I can. Inasa nodded. That's a good quirk for crowd takeouts, Izuku stated. I can do that. It is actually what I did at the recommendation exams, Inasa admitted. How does your telekinesis work, Aizawa? Izuku wondered why everyone jumped to calling it telekinesis. It's telekinetic energy. I don't fully understand everything I can do with it, but so far I can move objects with my mind, create platforms or barriers, and make objects stick together if I focus. I also have a sensory ability that I have been working on. sensory ability? Mashiro asked. I can feel quirks around me. I have been working on increasing my range and trying to see if I can see more than just quirks. What do they look like? Inasa was intrigued. Do you see that person? It's like a ball of light that I can see floating in space pretty much. Everything is black, but the balls of light that are the quirks all are the accurate distance from me and feeling. Izuku explained as Marlowe plopped into his lap. May I ask what color my quirk is? Mashiro asked. Yours is yellow. Quill's is dark red and Yurashi's is light blue. Izuku answered. So mine is my hair color, Quill remarked. Neat. A knock at the door interrupted the four new friends from their conversation. Inasa answered it since he was the closest, opening the door to see Katsumi. Hello, Bakugo. Inasa smiled. Hey, where's Izuku? Katsumi didn't see him at first. Right here. Izuku held up his hand, realizing that since he was on the floor in the opposite side of his bed, she probably didn't see him. Oh, Izuku, can we talk? Katsumi asked. I guess. Izuku shooed Marlowe off of him to stand up and go with Katsumi to the hallway. Want to keep our training together going every other day? Katsumi asked. I thought we were already going to do something like that, Izuku admitted. Okay, I also have a new member of my team. It's Asui. Katsumi grinned. It's good you said yes, or I would have had the girls kick your ass. Would you really have had them do that? Izuku asked. Kendo might have, but the other two might take convincing. Katsumi shrugged. Why not every other day we have our groups work together training while we do our own training? Izuku asked. Since you seem to be trying to have a rivalry, it would be healthy competition. Katsumi nodded. All right, why not if the groups get to know each other better now then? The commons, Izuku offered. I'm bringing my games down there. I saw that TV, Katsumi stated. And you aren't getting out of playing this time. Izuku sighed. I guess. I will tell them the plan. Katsumi grinned as she began to get her own group. I'm getting the girls. Izuku entered the room, noticing the guys looking at him, Quill having a smirk. What's the look for? Izuku asked. Just close friends, my ass. Quill said. I won't say shit but that. You were eavesdropping. Izuku wasn't surprised. Quill did make a bet that we could hear, as he put it, Yule tension. Inasa mentioned. I'm not ready to do anything about it. Izuku didn't see the point in lying. That's cool, Quill said as he stood up. If we are going to the commons, I am getting a book from my room. Quill then said one more thing as he left. Yes, I do read. I'm not all aggression. I'm fine with this idea also. Mashiro said. Bonds help us grow. Passion can be found more easily. Inasa agreed. Marlowe mewed to be part of the conversation. Katsumi had a smile as she brought her games downstairs. She thought originally that she would just end up leaving them in her room with her small TV, but if she had a group this big, no one can question her takeover of the biggest TV in the commons. Itsuka, Ibara, and Tsuyu all thought the idea for the groups was good also and were already down there. Katsumi was the last one down there, the other 7 plus Izuku's cat having already made their spots in the commons, being the only ones there. Katsumi was a little surprised that Quill, the guy Izuku had stated as highly aggressive, was calmly sitting there and reading the Bible of all things. Ibara had noticed and had gone to having her own out as well, and they were just reading silently and occasionally saying little bits to each other. Itsuka and Mashiro had found kinship in both wanting to be masters of many martial arts styles and were talking about their favorites. Tsuyu was letting Marlowe, who had taken to lying next to her while Inasa told Tsuyu and Izuku, who was trying to fall asleep but failing, about some of his favorite things, which seemed to be everything. Once Katsumi had brought down her games, she had gotten Quill, Itsuka, and Izuku to join her. Ibara had been miffed for a second that Quill had gone to the games but went back to her own reading. Izuku had eventually weaseled his way out of playing and Mashiro took over. Inasa eventually swapped with Quill, who had said he wasn't playing against Katsumi in any fighting game again, to the unnoticed joy of Ibara when he went back to his place near her. It was a good few hours of this until the others in class had come down thinking of dinner and finding the 8 new friends enjoying themselves, especially Izuku when he finally got to take a nap. How many games do you have exactly? Mashiro asked Katsumi as he went through the bag of games she had brought down. I like games, Katsumi stated. Some of those are single player, but it's fine if you guys play those. She had stopped playing games to play with Marlowe. What happened to this one? Itsuka held up a copy of Mario Kart. The box was fine, but it could be heard that the disc inside was broken. Katsumi had flashbacks to playing that for the last time with Izuku. We don't talk about that, she said with absolute seriousness. Okay. Itsuka looked confused as she put it back. Did you break it on purpose? Tsuyu asked. Not talking about it, Katsumi repeated herself. That day never happened. She was still salty with Izuku over what happened. Hello, classmates, Tenya said as he approached them. What would you all like for dinner? Some of the others are talking about seeing if we can order out for pizza. I am fine with that. Itsuka nodded. How many are we getting? Quill asked. I can put down money for 1 large for myself. 1 whole pizza to yourself. Mashiro looked at Quill. Quill was definitely a massive person, but 1 whole pizza felt a little much. I eat a lot and have particular taste. Quill stated, I have the money so I can just add it to the order if we go with that. Aibara shook her head. I don't like pizza. Are there other options? The closest area to UA that have restaurants is a 12-minute walk, and they have a lot of restaurants and shops in that area. Suyu said, they might have something you like. I go through that area a lot with my siblings. Do they have Greek? Aibara asked. They do. Well, we have a Greek place nearby, Katsumi asked. She shook Izuku awake. Hey stupid, wake up. We're talking about getting food. Whatever everyone else wants is fine. Izuku mumbled. We are getting food from a few restaurants now. Katsumi said. Whatever someone gets for me, I guess. Izuku mumbled. You don't want Greek? Katsumi asked, knowing that Izuku loved Greek food. Izuku perked up slightly. I would like that. Should we just make a list and send a few out to get food? Mashiro asked. The people who aren't getting pizza and want their own thing should get their own thing while the pizza people order theirs. Quill stated. We're still talking about food. Hanta had come down the stairs. Man, we are never getting our food. Elbows, we are talking about others getting their own food. Katsumi said. Elbows. Hanta questioned his nickname. Back to food. Katsumi brushed past it. Just tell everyone who isn't for pizza to join the group going to get different food, or leave a list and money for what they want. Tenya nodded, liking Katsumi more when she is calm like this. I shall tell the others. After talking with everyone, a majority of the people had decided on pizza but Katsumi, Izuku, Aibara, Shihai, and Azula. Azula had heard about the idea to leave for food and did, but not with the group. Izuku, Shihai, Aibara, and Katsumi had all went as a group. Izuku and Aibara getting Greek, Katsumi finding an Indian restaurant and finding the spiciest food she could, and Shihai went to find, as he put it, place with good beef. Waiting for their food, Aibara turned to Izuku. Is Bakugo normally aggressive? Aibara asked. She would be lying if she said Katsumi hadn't grown slightly on her, but the attitude was a bit odd how she would switch from aggressive to calm quickly. She is better after time. Izuku said. When we met, the first thing we did was get in a fight. Really? Aibara asked. Seeing how the two interacted, she found it strange it started with fighting. We both were kind of arrogant and clashed on that. Now we are a bit more humble and good friends. Izuku said. She does get better after time, I will admit. Aibara nodded. Quill too, if I am being honest. He also tried to start a fight with me when we first met. Izuku admitted. He mellowed out surprisingly quickly. He has good viewpoints on philosophy and religion. Aibara stated. Even if I disagree with some of them at first, he seems to be open-minded to my differing opinions. I find that odd. Izuku admitted. He seems like he would be that opposite. That is what I thought too. Aibara said. They were silent for the rest of their wait for their food. Once they got their food, they exited, and food Shihai had started walking towards them from another store. I found a place, Shihai stated as he held up his bag that they guessed had what good beef. So we are just waiting for Bakugo? Aibara asked. Apparently, Izuku said. Let's just go wait near the store she entered. The three students did go to the Indian restaurant Katsumi had entered, but they didn't see her inside or around the store. Did she leave us? Shihai asked. Nope, Katsumi announced that she was there behind them. I'm here. Where'd you go? Aibara asked. Noticing the second bag that Katsumi had. I got other food for later. Katsumi said. I don't know what our food situation is like at the dorms, so I got some stuff just in case. Okay, let's go back now. Shihai said. Shouldn't we worry about Ami? Aibara asked. She did go off alone. PFFD, she's fine. Katsumi said. Wants to act all tough. I don't anyone will actually talk to her. Returning to the dorms, the four had found that Azula had not returned, but everyone else had gotten found, and we all at the big tables. Hey, you're back, Hanta greeted them. Yep, the cool people are back, Katsumi replied as she sat down. You think you're cooler than me? Quill turned in his seat to face Katsumi. A little, yay, Katsumi said. I blew up a 0-pointer. That is badass, but I will disagree. Quill said. Okay, believe what you want, Katsumi responded. Where is Ame? Suyu asked, noticing the one missing student. Dunno, she ditched us without a word once we left campus, Katsumi answered. You let her leave? Tenya asked. No, she legitimately left us without a word, Shihai said. I tried to tell her to wait, but she didn't stop at all. She'll be back before curfew for sure, Katsumi said. Gates of this place close at 9 and we have to be in our dorms by 10. Don't make a big deal out of it, Quill said as he went for his 5th slice. She willingly left on her own, so let her deal with that. After that, most people filtered off into their own conversations at the table. 20 minutes passed and Azula walked into the dorms holding a small bag. Hamane, please don't. Tenya tried to reprimand her for leaving on her own but got cut off. Azula, without stopping her pace for the stairs, spoke. Not the damn class leader. Tenya looked annoyed at the way she spoke to him but didn't say anything else to her. Class A, Katsumi muttered once Azula left, and Quill nodded in agreement. It was now late. Most of the kids going to their rooms to sleep before the first days of class the next. They last few to be in the commons were Katsumi, Itsuka, Hanta, Ijiro, and Inasa. So do you guys know who our teacher is? Hanta asked as he tossed a ball to Ijiro. Well, it's a pro hero, no doubt. Aijiro tossed the ball to Ine-san. I believe that it might be one of the teachers who were at the recommendation exams. Ine-san tossed the ball to Itsuka. If that's the case, then you or Aizawa would know for sure, Itsuka said as she tossed the ball to Hanta. I hope it's Aunt Nimuri, Katsumi commented as she pet Marlo. Wait, your aunt is Midnight, Aijiro asked as he caught the ball. Not by blood. Katsumi shook her head. She's actually Izuku's godmother. She is, Hanta asked. Yeah, like half of the adults in his life are pro-heroes, Katsumi said. Not surprised Izuku didn't mention this to anyone. That's cool, Aijiro said. I have met his father, Ine-san said. He takes after his father a lot. How badly, Itsuka asked as she tossed the ball to Hanta. He looks like a younger version of his dad but with a color change, Katsumi answered, looking over at Izuku asleep on the couch. Which half of his quirk is his dad's, Hanta asked. The erasing half, Katsumi said. His dad teaches here, but I doubt they would let him be our teacher. Katsumi didn't know that she was wrong on that. The next morning was much quieter than the day before. Everyone quietly getting ready for the first day of school in their new uniforms. Some people had taken to adding or removing parts of their uniform, such as Katsumi deciding to not wear her jacket or tie because she didn't like it and wearing the boots Izuku had gotten her instead of the plain shoes that came with the uniform. Izuku had opted to not bother putting in effort for his outfit, and it bothered Katsumi. Instead of actually tucking his shirt in, or fixing his sleeves, or actually tying his tie anything close to correctly, he looked like he either rushed the process or skipped every part of the process. No, Katsumi said to Izuku as they met on the stairs down to the commons that morning. No, what? Izuku yawned. You are not going to class looking like a homeless person. Katsumi began to push him back up the stairs. You are fixing your uniform right now. It's not that big of a deal, Izuku argued without any effort of actually arguing. I don't care. You should look good if you have the stuff to look good, Katsumi responded as she continued to push him up the stairs. So you think I'm good looking? Izuku asked. Katsumi's brain stopped functioning at that and it caused her to slip while pushing Izuku, making him fall past her down the stairs. Luckily, Izuku created a platform to stop himself from falling and looked at her. Katsumi's face turned red at the accusation. Shut up. No, I don't. That's what was implied, Izuku stated. Your face was implied. If it helps you also look good. Izuku decided to try saying that. Shut up was Katsumi's brilliant response as she pushed past Izuku to go back down the stairs. Izuku frowned, realizing he probably could have said something else that didn't make her react like that. Sighing, he went back to his room to at least fix part of his outfit. Katsumi wanted to punch a wall. She was pissed at herself because that would have been a good moment to start being way nicer to Izuku than she normally was. Why couldn't she just take compliments? It was so frustrating. May I ask why you look ready to attack something? Itsuka asked as she walked up to Katsumi. It's nothing, Katsumi replied. If it was nothing, you wouldn't look ready to punch something. Itsuka commented. It's something, but I don't want to talk about it, Katsumi said. All right, but if you do want to talk to it, I'm here. Itsuka gave a smile. I'll remember that, Katsumi responded. Thanks. If I guess it though, can you tell me? Itsuka asked. I doubt Aizawa. Itsuka cut off Katsumi. Katsumi gave Itsuka a look. I won't confirm that. Itsuka grinned. I take that as yes. We don't have to talk about it later, but I did get it right, so eventually we will be talking. You know you can act like a weird sister, right? Katsumi asked. Well, I am in the Sisterhood of Kickass, Itsuka replied. Katsumi gave a chuckle. Definitely. This is why you are my number 2. I'm honored. Itsuka nodded. Katsumi turned to see Izuku had come down the stairs, his outfit looking much better, except he had apparently ditched his jacket and still couldn't tie his tie properly. It did look like he actually tried though. Katsumi was about to speak to Izuku to apologize, but one of the others spoke too loud to everyone. Who wants to place bets on which pro hero is our teacher? Hanta asked loudly. There should be no gambling, Tenya said, shooting down Hanta's idea. Why don't you wait to see who it is? Ochako asked. That's part of the mystery. I don't want mystery, I want gambling, Hanta replied. Everyone, let's go. Class starts soon and we should be prompt and early, Tenya announced. Still not the Ing leader, Azula grumbled despite her actually leaving the dorms to go to their class. As everyone began to head to class, Katsumi managed to get Izuku to stay behind with her. Before he could say anything, she began to fix his tie. What are you doing? Izuku asked as she was fixing it. I'm doing you a favor. If people see how horrible you tied this thing, then they will think you are lazy. Katsumi avoided looking at his eyes. I am lazy, Izuku responded. You should actually wear the outfit properly still, Katsumi said. You're not, Izuku pointed out. I'm different. Girls can get away with this because if you haven't noticed, I am showing a little cleavage to distract guys, Katsumi said, not believing she just said those words to Izuku. I didn't notice, and that shouldn't stop the teachers who shouldn't be looking at you like that anyways from noticing the lack of your tie and jacket, Izuku said. He had noticed earlier, but there was no way in hell he would admit that. Katsumi finished tying Izuku's tie. Oh well, I broke the school's record by a lot, so I think they won't mind me not wearing a jacket. Let's get to class before Ada starts scolding us on not being 15 minutes early like him, Izuku said. When have you ever gone to something early? Katsumi teased as they began to go to class. I don't pay attention, so I don't know, he responded. Pay more attention, lazy ass, the explosive blonde said, or else you might miss something. Or you could just fill me in on what I miss. Izuku yawned. Nah, Katsumi shook her head. It's funnier this way. They were the last two of the students to enter the class, which helped them find the two seats that they were assigned to. Katsumi's being right in front of Izuku's in the row by the window. Quill had the seat right behind Izuku. Everyone was sitting quietly when their teacher walked in the room. Most everyone looked at the teacher in confusion, thinking of how odd that they looked a lot like one of their classmates. Dad Izuku was the first one to speak, voicing the confusion he had that his teacher was his father. Shoda made a weak wave. Hey Izuku, no time for us to all waste. He placed the bag he was holding onto his desk, not leaving room to speak, and cut him off. Here are gym clothes for all of you. I want you in them as quick as possible and to meet me outside. Shoda finished as he walked away to the field they would use. That's your dad, Itsuka asked Izuku. Yep, the boy nodded. If I am correct, this is a test, so we shouldn't waste time. Izuku got up to grab the gym clothes that had his name on them. Yep, let's go. Katsumi grinned as she got her gym clothes. Outside the class were all standing in a group and waiting for Shoda's instruction. Good, you all got out of here quick enough, Shoda said in his usual flat tone. Some of the students, noticing how Shoda's stance and way he talked were exactly like Izuku's own. Today we are going to do a quirk assessment test to see where you are at. I will be making each of you go through the regular physical exams and tests that you did in middle school, but this time you can use your quirks. If I feel that you are not giving it your best, or that you have no potential to grow from, I will fail you out of this class to general studies and will find someone else more suited to be in this class to take your place. Wait, that's not fair, Hanta pointed out. Your son is in this class. How do we know you won't just let him slide through even if he doesn't try? Shoda knew that someone would instantly call out his relationship with his son. That is why he said his next words. I have trained him myself, so I know what he is capable of. He then looked directly at Izuku. Izuku, if you do not exceed every little thing I know you can do, I will fail you. The class all felt nervous for Izuku at the way Shoda held himself, saying that he definitely meant it. Izuku, however, wasn't as worried as he should have been. That is fair. First, I would like the highest ranking person by score in the exams to demonstrate exactly my point about today's test. Shoda looked at his son again. Izuku, step up here. Shouldn't you go by regular exams instead? Izuku asked as he stepped up. I used scoring averages from both exams to rank you all in this class. A perfect written portion as well as your scores in the trials make you outrank second place of Bakugo by a few points. Shoda handed his son a baseball. How far can you throw based on regular strength alone? 78 meters. Izuku answered. Okay, throw that, but implement your telekinetic energy. Shoda held up a scanner to be ready to see how far his son can throw the ball. Izuku hadn't tried throwing anything with his telekinetic energy yet. He had moved things back and forth but never actually throwing or launching them. It would just require the same motions as moving something away from him, but with a lot more force and release. It was also different because this would have to have the energy flow with him through his arm and body. Izuku took a breath as he tried to use his telekinetic energy in a new way. Feeling it in his arm, he went through the motions of throwing the ball. The next thing that happened was a thunderous clap of energy and Izuku fell over. Ah, that hurts, Izuku groaned as he held his hand. He knew exactly what went wrong. He released the energy while it was still going through his hand, and it decided to leave his hand through the closest way out of his hand, causing his wrist to pop out of place as well as his middle and index finger. Shoda looked at his son with worry as he tried to assess the injury. How bad is your hand? I can still go, Izuku answered. Shoda felt his paternal instincts tell him to say that and make Izuku go to the nurse. I can fix them. Izuku, despite how badly it hurt, used his telekinetic energy to push his wrist and fingers back into place. Everyone heard the bones pop as they were realigned. See, Dad, I'm fine. Shoda still wanted to send Izuku to the nurse, but he knew that he shouldn't coddle his son. After the test, I want you to go to the nurse. What did I get on the throw? Izuku indicated to the scanner so Shoda can tell him. Shoda doubted the scanner had the score, but it did. 806.3 meters. That should be fine, right? Izuku asked. This goes well past what you could do, so it is fine. He looked at Katsumi. You're up, Katsumi. As Katsumi went past Izuku, she slapped his shoulder. Don't hurt yourself, stupid. Izuku wiggled his hand. It's fine. See. Katsumi gave him a dirty look. That's you're an idiot. She went past him. Just like Izuku, you can use your quirk in this. Shoda reminded her. I got it, Katsumi said as she gripped the ball. Yus decided to vent her frustrations about Izuku into the ball. As she threw it, she released an explosion that propelled it past the trees just like Izuku had done. A few seconds later, Shoda had the score. 806.3 meters. Did they just get the same score? Ijiro asked. Katsumi liked her score, so she didn't bother to argue for a better one. These two show how your quirks can enhance your base strength. Shoda turned to the class. I expect everyone to pay close attention to how your quirks can be used to improve other areas. However, don't always lean on your quirk use. Shoda paused. Next, I want Momoye Urazu up here. Shoda looked at the scores he had tallied up. Every student had taken his threat against his son as a threat to them as well, all trying to push themselves as well. He didn't expect them to take his son's carelessness about his injury and how he kept going to also get harder. But it was nice to see them all pushing themselves. You all exceeded my expectations I had for each of you, Shoda said, noticing several of the students releasing a breath they were holding. I expect you all to use today as a standard for where you need to grow the most. Next time we do this, I want to see every score that is possible to increase. He handed a paper to Tenya, who was the closest to him. Those are your ranks in this class based on your scores here. I will be back in the classroom. Once you find your placement, I want you all back in your school uniforms and in the classroom. Shoda walked away. Where am I? Ijiro asked immediately as he tried to read the paper. I can just go down the list from top to bottom, Tenya said. Starting at the top we have Aizawa, then Bakugo, Quill, Todoroki, Urashi, Yaoyorozu, me, Kirishima, Takoyami, Ajiro, Kendo, Amin, Ashido, Asui, Uraraka, Shizaki, Shiro, Kiwaro, Kyoka, and Hagakure. I'm last. Toru felt embarrassed. How many points am I behind Izuku? Katsumi asked. Only by a small margin, Tenya said. I want to spar after class, Izuku. Katsumi said. I want to see that margin. Okay, I guess. Izuku agreed. How am I below you two? Quill looked confused. I easily have a lot more strength. Our quirks boost us up enough. Izuku shrugged. At least without quirks I know I am the strongest physically. Quill shrugged, taking a win there. Azula was pissed to see herself so low on the board. As much as this didn't affect the plans, she didn't like being so low. Classes had ended and Katsumi had managed to talk Shoda into giving her and Izuku a key to a training room so they could spar. Alright, lazy ass, let's do this. Katsumi did some stretches, having gotten rid of her school uniform in favor of red sweats. I actually want to test a theory, Izuku said as he stretched his arms. He had traded in his uniform for his green sweats as well. What is it? Katsumi asked. Earlier I felt something when I put my telekinetic energy through my body, as if I was actually enhancing myself right there, Izuku explained. Are you sure the feeling wasn't bones popping out of place? Katsumi gave Izuku a look, still not happy he hurt himself and was now building a theory from that experience. I think I might be able to channel my telekinetic energy through my body as I fight and increase the power of my strikes and possibly more, Izuku said. I might be able to enhance my performance a lot if I can do it correctly. So you want to try doing something that already hurt you to see if it won't hurt you? Katsumi asked, trying to think of a way to call Izuku stupid without using the word stupid. The flow felt wrong earlier. That was a shot in the dark because I had never used my telekinetic energy on my body before. Like I said, I don't understand the full depth of the power, but I may be able to make myself stronger, and I think you of all people would like an opportunity like that, Izuku said. Fine, we can try that. But if you end up hurting yourself, I will kick your ass, Katsumi threatened. Izuku sighed. I figured you would. Let's begin with our regular spar first. Definitely, Katsumi agreed. They both got into their stances and began their spar, not noticing the pair of eyes watching them.